How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of No Excuses with your favorite show hosts, RSL.
And Volacel and no Fern. Fern may be along later, but at present he's wrestling with his work schedule.
Yep.
And that puts him on shift today that overlaps with the show. And apparently it's sufficiently rigid that this time he can't worm out of it. So you have to put up with just us for the time being until Fern comes along. But if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com. You can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw. You can join us in the Discord server, which you can get to by clicking on the link provided in the show description underneath the show archive in YouTube.
Yes, indeed. Right. Since Fern may show up later, I will delay all VR talk until he gets here. Um, a good solid shot to get here before I jump into that because Fern got his headset this week and actually did jump
So
on
he's
and
all up and running or still wrestling?
he's got it mostly working. He jumped into and played some golf with me and Ibu to make sure everything was running okay, and it seemed to be okay. Aside from the part where his strap with the battery pack hasn't come in, so he had to get a little charging thing and plug it into the headset and carry that around with him in his lap, and he had to play golf sitting down while he was charging it because he
Like a power pack or something?
yeah. So so he's still waiting on that. But he'll have more to share about that and go in details how he got it set up and what he's doing. But yeah, he didn't need to pester me for anything. VD or virtual desktop, I call it VDT because virtual desktop. Uh, Even though it's not that many more syllables, like one more, it feels like more of a mouthful. It's pretty intuitive these days. They've had a lot of time to iron out all the kinks in virtual desktop, and it just makes everything way easier. So, but he'll talk more about that when he gets here. I'm not sure what all he's done because he just popped in for a couple hours and did a couple 18 holes of golf with me and Ibu, and that was all I encountered of him this week.
Yeah, he's been pretty unresponsive to me as well, so he must be busy.
Yep,
But sounds like stuff's happening for him
yep,
IRL at the moment, so.
yep. So while he is not here, we can jump right into your week and go into the Hoyo stuff after you talk about whatever uh, real life week stuff you got going on this week. I guarantee Fern has not had time to play Hoyo.
Well. This week was rough. I mean, it's usually rough, but this week was pretty rough. Um, there's been a certain amount of people rumbling about a Zogum new COVID wave, but I don't think it's just seasonal flu. Again, like always, it's just seasonal flu. Um,
YouTube still have editorial guidelines about Zakoof.
I don't know. Have you arrested Fauci yet?
We're working on it.
I mean, he's being prosecuted in so many different countries now.
Yeah,
Like, all you would need to do would be to extradite him. You wouldn't even need to get your hands dirty.
yeah. Well, I kind of want to give that win to Rand Paul. Well,
Like, I mean, you could just let him let him get extradited, let him get convicted, and then ask them to extradite him back to you so you can add more convictions.
yeah,
Because
but
he's basically managed to wrong everybody in the civilized world.
yeah, pretty much. But it's it oh, it's a mess. I do not like anybody bringing disease up as a reason they can't do something because barring a rather high fever, I find a way to drag my butt in the office every.
Well, the thing is, I like one of my guys did drag his butt into the office, and I threw him out because he was sitting there like sweating like a pig, like obviously feverish, and he came into work anyway.
Well, props to him for at least making the effort.
You know, I threw him out. He was definitely not going to be any good to anybody, and he would probably infect everybody else in the process. But yeah, it's been one of those weeks where I'm back in the hot seat doing everything because everybody else is sick, which seems to happen to nearly everybody but me for some reason. Don't know why. Not implying anything about something everybody else did that I didn't do. But yeah, you can take from that what you want. But basically, it meant that my week was rough again, and it's not likely to let up anytime soon, especially since the auditing has been moved up this year to earlier in the year, which once we can get it out of the way will at least give me a bit less of a rough time as far as the back end of the year is concerned. I'll be able to relax for a bit longer than normal, because normally it's about half the year is taken up with frantic audit fumbling about. But next week is going to be a mess as well, because we've got to have some work done on the boiler, which is always a pain because it means you've got to have a raft of engineers come out for a couple of days and drink coffee on your time. Everybody loves engineers.
Oh
Right.
man, this week I had an engineer. Well, I didn't actually talk to the engineer directly this time. He wasn't a problem for me at first, but he was a problem for my customer's customer. Uh, he had spec'd a duplex quick removal pump system in a basin that was 36 inches in diameter, and then told them to pour a 12-inch manhole over it. You don't know what quick removal pumps are, for those in the audience. They are big duplex pumps on a rail system, usually, that need to accommodate the entirety of the rail system to slide up and down, so you can just pull them out and meet code, because they don't want people jumping in poop pits if they don't have to. These usually take about 24 inches minimum.
What good is a manhole that small? What can you even do with it?
I don't know.
There's miniature,
So I had
notwithstanding what you've put underneath.
so my customer had me call his customer and explain why the engineer is retarded.
He probably just copied the spec from somewhere else.
Seems to be all engineers can do.
At any rate, yeah. So that's the thing. This today is Septuagesima Sunday, which means there's 3 Sundays till Lent, and then Lent is 40 days till Easter. So we're rolling up on Easter as well, and the audit falls almost on top of that for some reason. I don't know why they would decide to do something so foolhardy, but that is what is happening. Which means I've only got 3 weeks left that I can drink, and then it's Lent. Then I don't consume any alcohol during Lent at all. That's my insurance policy against becoming an alcoholic. Is that I have to be able to stop for 40 days cold turkey every year. But yeah, at any rate, there's not really anything specific to talk about as far as the real world in the week goes, because most of it was the usual of I spend more time at work than I do at home type of life that I need to find a way out of somehow, because I'm pretty sure it's not going to change anytime soon. There's not really any reason why it couldn't change, other than the fact that it's Corpo, and Corpo is ossified basically into the most inefficient way of doing anything, and the inefficiency is something that I get to bear the blame for, even though it's not my fault. So, yeah. Gaming wise, I haven't done anything particularly novel. There have been some things come out on the various Hoyo games that I play. I've backburnered everything in regard to Honkai Impact 3rd, except for very slow progress on the main story. Like, there are just too many events each patch for me to attempt to play any of them. It's too time intensive. And generally speaking, the level of difficulty of combat in Honkai Impact events is significantly higher than most other Hoyo games, but it's sort of hard to tell to what extent that is a function of the event, and to what part of that is a function of the fact that there is a greater assumption of a developed roster than in most other Hoyo games. notwithstanding anomalies like Imaginarium Theatre, I don't think anybody has a developed enough roster for that, except for that tiny 1% of people who've been playing since launch without a break. But yeah, I've finished the first of the interludes between chapter 1 and chapter 2 now, which was quite a satisfying little ending there.
That's the one you sent me a
Everybody,
picture of.
no, that's a different event entirely. That I'm not really sure what's going on. I'm very confused.
But
But
there are many
that
chimkins.
that that screen cap is from an event that is, I think, being immortalized, so I can go and catch up on it later. But yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm really not really sure what is going on there. But yeah, the interlude was entertaining and fun, and it's got all of the sort of the emotional resonance I have come to expect from their writing when they are properly centered on characters as opposed to trying to do something bizarre and fruity. Um, but yeah, it was. I have good momentum going and continuing on the story. There are a few real dry patches early on in chapter 1. But it really starts to pick up as it goes along. And by the time you get to the interlude chapters, you can sort of see that okay, they have their formula now for sparking momentum in a story and then keeping it going. And that makes it sort of stick out all the more when they hit the reset button and trying to do a different. They're trying to do the writing for a different game, and it seems like they have to relearn all the same lessons again because they all seem to follow the same arc, where they've got early Hoyo game syndrome, where they can't seem to figure out the balance between storytelling and world building, and they seem to run aground in it every single time without fail, with the exception being, to some extent, with the exception being ZZZ, but they managed to mire themselves in a completely other problem, being Bamboo TV. So, yeah.
At least they undid Bang Boo TV.
Well, yeah, I think that the format really strongly incentivizes reacting quickly, much more than perhaps a lot of their other games do, because the focus of the gameplay portion of ZZZ is so narrow and requires such a high degree of execution that everything that is corollary to it has to be perfect because there's just not that much material. Like the part that constitutes the bulk of gameplay for Genshin Impact is gargantuan because it's basically wandering about Teyvat is what the game is, and everything else is just framing and corollary to that. Whereas ZZZ, it's basically the action engine, and that's it. That's where all the gameplay is located, around that very narrow focus. So everything that's surrounding it has to be just right, otherwise that becomes orphaned from the game as a whole. And well, if it's just an action game with nothing to motivate people's participation, well, you're more or less going to be able to find an action game somewhere else that has a more refined action system. People need to feel compelled to play it here. So when it comes to competing so directly against another product, you've pretty much got to nail it and quickly. So if you miss, you need to course correct really quickly. In the case of Genshin, because it's the biggest contrast really, what are they competing against? Well, at time of launch, they're competing against Breath of the Wild. But Breath of the Wild is essentially a one and done. It's not going to be an ongoing proposition as far as a world where a story continues to be told. So that competition is very superficial. Nowadays, you've got Wuthering Waves as competition, but the tone and tenor of that world is very, very different. Like, it's pretty openly a post-apocalyptic in a lot of ways. Like, it's the tone of Wuthering Waves is closer to, in terms of the world building, is closer to ZZZ, in that sort of there are places that have stabilized against the encroaching destruction type of thing, as opposed to Genshin, where everything is normal and there are incursions coming from the outside. So there is still competition there, but the tone is different, so you're going to be able to secure different audiences. in the case of ZZZ, if you're going to narrow your gameplay across to the action gameplay part of it, that how do we execute on this formula? How do we execute on these mechanics? There are many, many, many competitors of various different shades and a huge amount of crossover in target demographic as far as enjoyment of the mechanics is concerned. Like most people that are willing to play ZZZ on the basis that they like the gameplay would also be willing to play any number of other types of action games, ranging from Dark Souls to Devil May Cry. So you can't afford to add friction to your game. They have to respond quickly. If they had rested on their laurels for 5 years like Genshin Impact before doing anything about Bang Boo TV, they just would have lost everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they would have kept their audience because it's not what people are there for. So they have a very pressing need to react quickly to everything. They don't have the sort of patience that the players of a sandbox like Genshin would afford them. So yeah. As far as ZZZ is concerned, well, the Evelyn banner went up, but I haven't pulled on it. Obviously, related to that, I haven't pulled on her signature double engine either. And basically, it's because of cold feet, because I can't decide if it would be a good idea to do so or not,
Well,
fundamentally.
you got a few weeks to hang on and wait for Big MB to have her stuff previewed and see if you really want to go in for her.
I don't think the size difference is all as much as you're making it out to be. But yeah, I don't know what the right move is there. Despite the fact that I can't compete at as high of a level as people who specialize more in action games, I still have a goodly amount of polychrome kicking about, but it is still a limited resource that you have to spend cautiously. And I am definitely lacking a premium, straightforward stun and then do crit damage solution as far as combat is concerned. I'm still operating off of a very inefficient approach, which is, which is basically Anby Grace Rena. Now, in theory, there's nothing wrong with that, but each of these have their own sort of propositional issues. Largely, the fact that while that sort of in a preschool fit the shape to the shaped object to the shaped whole perspective, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with that in theory. What you have is Anby, 4-star stunner who conveys no benefits to her team. Grace, reasonably competent electrical anomaly with very high anomaly generation. And Rena, penetration support specialist. The problem with all of this is, aside from the launch level of power, laying that aside because it's something you've just got to accept, is the assumption for team structure is that the stunner does provide more than just stun. Every other stunner in the game does, except for Envy. The assumption regarding the use of Rena is that penetration is of use to you. However, Anomaly takes advantage of penetration the least amongst damage solutions. It's not really going to help you all that much in the main. It's still support. It doesn't do nothing, but the effect is significantly less than it would be for a straight up damage dealer. Grace works, but Grace works mainly. Her strength is that she can get to the point of triggering Anomaly faster than basically any other Anomaly character in the game. And Rena is good for most purposes, but perhaps not for this one. Perhaps she's a poor fit. Her support of the Anomaly is the main reason to use her, because she's going to play into that gauge. But yeah, so basically it is a team that works in theory, but in practice is just really, really weak, and it's basically my electric solution. Now, there's always the argument if you could build Haramasa, and there's always the argument if you
Well,
can build Anton.
if you're using Anby, you're gonna have trouble leveraging Ambi's one thing she has over Kingi, which is her faster stun time, because Kingi takes a while longer to stun.
Yeah, Chingy is basically the drawback for Chingy as a whole is she's way hungrier for field time than other stunners are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
but
Ching.
she still provides benefits to her team as far as support goes, which Enby just doesn't.
Well, yeah, and you can't with Haramasa. You can't take advantage of the stuns as easily with Ambi because Ambi's going to be stunning a lot more than Kingi does for not as much. But Haramasa requires on-field setup time, and you have to do wacky like get them almost done to get Haramasa on the field, get your things on the field, pop Rena out, drop the EX skill, get Ambi back in there, and get the stun, finish the getting the stun off, and by then you've wasted Ambi's one advantage, which is the fast stun, because you've been doing all kinds of character swapping.
Yeah, there's always like you. ZZZ is just like every other Hoyo game. You can't get good advice on how to play it generally. Um, what you will find in the community is basically every Hoyo community is incredibly corrosive, right? They're all horrible. Like the people in Genshin hate the idea of story. They find it absolutely revolting, and they want every character to be black. The community in Star Rail just whinge incessantly, and the community in ZZZ are the closest thing I can liken it to is the sort of the uh the Dark Souls community. Like
I,
they basically aren't willing to speak to anybody who doesn't use Billy and Anton as their main DPS.
I've got a I have not stuck my nose in the quote unquote community on social media, especially. I only catch glimpses of it occasionally in a recommended video or when somebody posts something on a different on like a forum or something.
Well,
But
the thing is that the thing with YouTube is that YouTube never represents games' actual communities any more than Twitter does, and the reason for that is that what you see on YouTube is the content creators community, not the games community.
yeah, well that's
The
what I mean.
two usually only have a tangential overlap.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm fairly divorced from the actual community, but from what I've seen of it, I get the impression of remember how I was complaining about the Dark Souls poser folks that like the ones that were complaining that uh Consort Radon was too hard when the DLC came out.
I mean, I don't know that they were doing that, but okay.
Yeah, I went on a 20-minute rant about this on the show and showed the little video of me beating the boss. But that's the impression I get is they act like that, like people that just for some reason have some kind of clout that they develop with themselves for doing things a certain way.
Yeah, to some extent, that's why I say that. But basically, like, if you say, like, for instance, I'm always whinging about Deadly Assault because I don't think it fits the game's point in the life cycle. I think it makes it very inaccessible to people. If you were to say that in the ZZZ community, you would get mocked and dogpiled relentlessly by people saying, Zogam, everybody has access to Anton. Anton's all you need. Look, here is my easy mode triple star clear of Deadly Assault off element using Anton as my main DPS.
Now show me your
And it's like,
artifacts.
yeah, it's like I don't think that I will ever have enough time to number one get that skilled at using Anton of all characters, and number two get artifacts that would permit me to do that. So you must be joking. Those drive discs don't exist in my world. I'm sorry.
Like that's the caveat with all these force in any Hoyo game. When somebody comes out with a 4-star, oh look at 4 stars can do it. Blah blah blah. How many resources did you spend? How many refreshes for weeks did you max out to get the drive discs or artifacts that you have for those 4 stars?
Yeah, so I like roundly speaking, Seth is a better character in terms of number of different uses than most of the launch 4 stars. But nobody ever says that about Seth because they haven't had as long to grind. So so his drive discs aren't gonna be as good. But
And
yeah,
yeah, and his
that's
preferred
something that
drive
you
disc came out when he did, so the drive discs weren't even in the game for them to have backups of.
this is what you run into if you say I'm having trouble with Deadly Assault and there just doesn't seem to be a team that works well for me to do these. It doesn't seem very fair that this is the challenge that they're offering, but don't have these characters, and they're like, oh, Billy can do everything. Look, I've 3-starred every single one of these with Billy. It's easy.
Yeah,
You just need to get good.
if
It's
you
like,
have
well, yes, but there's a threshold to getting good where you're no longer getting good return on investment as far as time is concerned.
like, yeah, and that's also a thing is I can understand people that have a casual passing interest in action games. They don't want to sit there for 2 or 3 hours like I do on some of the harder stages in Battle Tower, or when I was first getting into in game in that game, beating my head against enemies and learning the attack patterns. I find that stuff incredibly fun. But some people just have a passing interest, or they like the genre, but they don't want to sit there and grind it.
Yeah, I don't have enough of an interest or a talent at action games that I want to set extra challenges for myself. And as far as I'm concerned, playing way off element is setting myself an extra challenge. If I am being told you need to match this element and this archetype for this fight, I expect to be able to do it within reason. I don't expect that to be impossible and then be forced to play off element and off type, because that's an extra challenge that you impose upon yourself. Is I really want to try doing this with this character because I think I can do it. I just need to practice. No, that's the starting line for me. The starting line is doing it off element, off character, because the roster is too small. But you can't get any information. Oh, okay. So for people who have access to a smaller roster, these are tricks that you can use to try and get more out of the bonus points for Deadly Assault. Nobody says that. Everybody says, just use Billy. What's wrong with you? You just need to get good and use Billy. I don't know what their hard on is for Billy, really.
Awful.
Well, they don't think so. They think Billy is the best character in the game. So
That's because they can brag. Look what I did with Billy, the worst character in the game.
But yeah, that community seems to have settled into its own type of complete toxicity at this point, where
I'm
they basically are a reflection of the Dark Souls community.
I'll still take that over the everybody is gay community that Genshin has.
Well, it's not everybody is gay anymore. As of the release of this patch and the beginning of like high volume drip marketing and leaks for Verisa and Yansan, the community has progressed to everybody is gay and fat and black and has vitiligo.
Oh yeah, the Lego posts, the cursed for the Lego posts.
Just don't understand. What is it? What is it with these people in vitiligo?
I don't know. They should ask Uncle Ruckus. He's an expert about the opposite.
He's got re-vitiligo. That's the opposite of what Michael Jackson got. Lucky son of a bitch. Anyway, yeah. There's been a lot of that going around right now because of the release of the new Genshin patch. But yeah, so ZZZ is a thing. I haven't pulled for Evelyn. I do like Evelyn. I think that while she's not normally the character archetype I go for, I do rather like her. And she plays comfortably, but I have Bernice, which means I have a fire solution of sorts, which is at the sort of the premium limited tier. So I would feel like gilding the lily if I then tried to force my way into a fire attack without having a stunner to complete that set. And the stunner is going to be in the second half of the next patch from what I can tell, and will also have probably very little synergy in terms of how she operates with the sort of team that Evelyn and Astra, who are almost certainly would get paired together in every situation, would have. So I'm not really sure exactly what to do about that. I probably would have already pulled Evelyn if I already had Kaleda, because it would mean that I had an on-element stun solution. Even though Kaleda's got her issues, she would fit. But because the only character that exists on the standard banner for me is Grace, I can't ever count on getting
M3,
on getting Kaleda.
M3, M3.
No, when I hit my 300, I'll probably improve Rena
Yeah,
because
you want her M1.
I really like Rena as a character. Like I enjoy all of her bits, and she's quite fun to play as well. But that M1 is just worth so much. Like I
I,
don't even know how to describe how much that looks like it's worth.
it's you will not see bigger numbers and you will not feel it, but I got M1 in Rena during between deadly assault runs, and before and after M1 was a solid 3,000 points worth of damage.
Yeah, sort of it moves her more in the direction of Lucy as far as on-field time for her lackeys is concerned. But the as it currently is, I really resent having to constantly to check whether Drusilla and Anastella are still on the field or not, because it's very hard to tell how long they're going to hang out.
Yeah, they with
But
with M1 you can pop them out and they'll be out for a full rotation. They may pull back at the last like 3 or 4 seconds of it before you get back to
your
back
window
to
of
arena.
benefiting from their presence is going to be significantly larger,
Yeah,
because that
it
window is really what makes her useful, and anything that expands it is going to be worth more than basically anything else you could do to her.
let alone double it.
But yeah, so that's probably where that will go. But that means that I need a good stun option. And there are two good stun options coming down the line. Um, like I've tried using Caesar, but for a basically Caesar works as a stunner better for Bernice than basically any other character. Like if your damage dealer is not Bernice, Caesar is a bit iffy. The main reason being that because of Bernice's tendency to proc damage off field, it means on field Caesar is less detrimental to the team as a whole. Since Bernice is not just a dot burn; it's a proct burn caused by the continued fighting of other members of the team. So it makes sense to have a character on field who's engaged with the enemy to constantly proc that burn. So you don't lose out as much with Caesar heading up a team with Bernice. But Caesar heading up teams with other types of damage dealers doesn't work nearly as well because her time on field is mostly a detriment. It's very hard to make it work. I've tried a few different combinations, but outside of Sons of Caledon, Caesar loses a lot of value quite quickly in most formats. I don't have very many direct attack type characters who benefit a lot more from Caesar in a direct sense, but yeah, her uses, while they are universal, the amount of benefit that you gain from having Caesar on your team varies pretty wildly. She's no hard stunner, which I mean that makes sense. That's not her role. Like what Caesar does is make your team close to immortal when played correctly. So at the expense of the fact that your muscle memory will be shot when you go to the second half and have to use a stunner again. But the uh, the stun portion of her role, while performed adequately, does not mesh well with a lot of other teams when you view her as a pure stunner rather than a defensive support. But yeah, so I don't have a stun solution to make an Evelyn Yao team work, and it's so I'm thinking that if I decide that she's really good and I really like her and I really want to pull for her, it might be a rerun thing rather than a first run thing, because it could be that the mode of work that NB and Trigger do is just more valuable to my account as a whole. Like, I don't do nearly as much waifu pulling in ZZZ as I do in, say, Star Rail, largely because most of the characters just aren't to my taste. But the 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 idea that they're releasing a premium NB and another premium stunner on Element, same faction, suggests that there's going to be some particular archetype that they're going to be deploying there. And I kind of want more information about that before I sort of pull the trigger on the uh, Stars of Lyra faction. There are
Yeah,
also other things like, are the Angels of Delusion going to be signed to the same label? So are they going to be part of that faction as well? Like, because we don't know when faction is going to be useful and when it's not, since they've been pretty random about that so far. They seem to be pulling away from it a little bit. but not all the way because it still applies to Miyabi. But
Yeah, well,
yeah, it's
Miyabi also gets her thing from just having a support on the team, which you're going to want from Miyabi.
yeah, because she's the most on-field hungry anomaly character of all time, bar none.
I don't know. Jane might be more hungry than her. It's a toss up.
Uh, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, maybe. I mean, Jane basically executes sort of like a physical Miyabi in a lot of ways, but I don't know. Jane feels more like a tool for a particular job than Miyabi does. Miyabi just feels like a force of nature who's going to sweep through and turn everything to ice, whereas Jane is like, oh well, this fight would be good to do with Jane type of character.
Yeah, she has her positions where she works best, but I find her most useful as a generic. I don't have something on element, but I need something that isn't that's an element that this enemy doesn't resist, which is
Like
usually Fizz.
when I've done trials with Jane, it's always I find it very frustrating fighting enemies that attack very slowly.
Yeah, because
Like doing fighting like the construction engines with Jane's generally frustrating because their cadence of attacks is so ridiculously slow, and
mm-hmm,
so most of the time you're just sitting there auto attacking.
mm-hmm. And they have that awkward delay on a bunch of their hits. So, and if you miss the dodge with Jane, you're in trouble because you need that
Me,
passion meter.
by contrast, Miyabi has very little interest in what the enemy is doing. She just intends to sweep them away. But yeah. So I'm gonna hold fire on there. I don't know where, like, because I only really follow the news closely on Star Rail. I'm not really sure where the information comes from for new characters coming down the line for ZZZ. But I'm sort of interested as to where that goes, and because I'm not really seriously attempting to clear all of Shield Defense and all of Deadly Assault every cycle. It's just I'm not that fussed about it really. Um, in the case of Shield Defense, I've hit the wall on that. I can't clear
think
it anymore because I just can't output damage fast enough. My teams don't have the DPS ceiling for it. And I could probably get them there if I dumped all of my free time into farming better discs and farming the last few trace materials or whatever you want to call them for ZZZ. Um,
think
that is supremely unfun and there's no auto mode.
thankfully the this current cycle, one half of the second to last node is the only problem electric node. There is one at 4, but you can force it off element. So it's not level 7 or 65 or whatever.
I'm not exactly loaded down with signature W engines like you either, so I like my Bernice performs at about 70% of what your one does. So
Well,
even
when I
where
say
I'm on element is still hard.
when I say brute force off element, my what I usually mean with that is Jane. So what you need to do, get yourself a Piper. It's
I mean,
all
it's basically inevitable at this point. Like everything signals in the direction of just build Piper already, just build Piper already. But then I've got to go back to the physical chip mines again. And
which
it's really starting to get me down. Like, at least in Star Rail, there are a few different. There's number one, there's auto mode. So if you're busy doing something else, you can just set her going, and the herter will take care of business, regardless of what the element is, basically. Um, but there's at least a variety of different farming stages that can be done. In the case of ZZC, it's like, oh well, I can go back to the physical chip mines again. Let's do this fight again. Those thugs gonna get a beating for the billionth time. But yeah, I I'm not particularly enamored of Piper as a character. I don't really like how she feels to play either.
she's enamored with you
But
though.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that she was my first M6 character by a massive margin because she showed up in every single 10 pull I ever did. But I don't have any drive discs prepared for her. I don't have the mats for her. it would be a huge pain in the butt to build her. But like, if I don't pull Evelyn, I've got nothing to do for the entire length and breadth of the rest of this patch. So I guess maybe I'll build Piper.
Yeah,
But
just
yeah,
the budget Jane team with Piper with Bernice is just it works.
it does work, but then you've got to use Piper, and Piper is very different to play as well. You've got to do a lot of on-field time. The only character who plays like Piper is ironically Corrin, who plays almost the same.
Yeah.
You switch her in differently, but the actual on-field performance operates similarly. It's not. I would not claim Piper as a bad 4-star character by any stretch of the imagination, but I definitely do not really enjoy playing her. But she's just optimal for so many Sons of Caledon builds, and Sons of Caledon is my strongest faction in terms of like the total number of characters I've got built up that play into it. So building Piper is something I'm probably just going to get forced to do.
It would also give you
But
a pocket disorder, just get a star or two in Deadly Assault whenever there's specifically a disorder. If you just Piper.
yeah, because currently my disorder team is Miyabi, Nicole, Astra, which works better than I thought it would, but but it's still not a proper disorder team.
I will sometimes just run that team because it just gets disorders by accident so many times it doesn't matter.
But yeah, there's also coming down the line a stunner who is not really useful to me in Pulchra. So
Furry,
because Pulchra overlaps very strongly with Caesar.
furry.
Well, I'm willing to grant a little bit of latitude to Pulchra simply because Bernice harasses her, and that's entertaining.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll have a character story for Pulchra and Bernice.
But yeah, it's God.
Do any of the four-star characters have character stories, or is it only 5 stars?
Well, in Genshin they don't, and ZZZ.
And B has a story. No, she doesn't. I think it's only 5 stars. So no Pulchra
Yeah,
story.
I think that the story that you could tell for Nicole would be hilarious. So of course she's not going to get one.
That's okay. She's the event archon of that game.
It's true. It's true.
We get
Anyway,
plenty of Nicole screen time.
yeah, it's like basically every time there is a new scheme in the offing, it's basically being brought to you by Nicole, who never makes any money in the end. But yeah, yeah. So I haven't touched this current cycle of Deadly Assault or Shield Defense. I'll probably just give it the old college try tomorrow. I'd intended to do it this morning, but my energy levels have been getting lower and lower as I've gotten older, and I don't know if that's actually just a function of me getting older. It's probably a function of my work getting more and more impressive. But yeah, I didn't do any video gaming this morning. Instead, I spent the entire time asleep. So yeah, my weekend sleep hours are starting to get out of hand. Like, as my weekday ones shrink because of the longer and longer time I spend at work and the earlier I get up in the morning to go to work, um, so too my weekend sleep hours expand to 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 hours to the point where I end up spending more time asleep than I do awake. It's like I'm not some kind of fantasy character who gets superpowers while they're awake, so I don't really want to be sleeping most of the day. Um, So yeah, ZZZ. As far as the current crop of content goes, um, fishing. Aristeel's favorite.
Aristotle's compulsion.
Yeah, I don't know how much like sort of what's the term, psychological contentment you actually procure from fishing mini games, or if you see them and it's just like walking around in circles on Arpeggio fault for you.
Like if there's fish to be caught, they must be caught, whether I enjoy the game or not.
But yeah, it's a very, very simple little fishing mini game framed by a story which has lots of Chingy screen time, which is all good with me because Chingy is one of my favorite characters. A waifu who was wasted on being a robot. But
Okay, just the bangbo hips.
yeah, I mean they do a good job of reminding you that she's not human, like when they talk casually about, oh, this is her most recent body type of thing. Um, but as far as waifu points, not having a fixed abode is definitely a demerit. Um, but yeah, the stories in general are quite entertaining, and I especially enjoyed Arena's side story for this fishing event. Like, I thought it was incredibly charming. Like, I'm a big fan of Rena as a character to begin with, although I feel that the lethal chef aspect of her character is a little bit cliche, but at least they do interesting things with it.
Made Shokaku happy though.
Yeah, so Sokaku, like I don't know if this says anything. I don't know if this is a commentary on native Oni cuisine or if it's a commentary on Sokaku's late sister's cooking, but at least I assume that Sokaku's sister's dead. That was sort of the implication from the corollary material.
The
I don't
Oni are
really
not
get it.
very explored yet. They've been set in the background. They haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. I'm not.
Like, do you know the background?
I know that there was some kind of tension between them and the humans in New Eridu, and something Unagi did helped
Okay,
ease
so
that tension.
basically, the gist of it is that there was not tension between the humans and the Oni. They were at open war in the early days of New Eridu, or possibly the days of the Old City. I can't remember exactly where in the continuity it falls. They were at open war. Um, the reasons haven't been explored yet, but it was the normal state of being was that the Oni were at war with the humans, and those few people who were at least a little bit sympathetic to the Oni recognized that the Oni couldn't continue to exist if they couldn't become part of New Eridu society simply because New Eridu was the only place anybody was able to survive for the most part. But they were at open war, and Yanagi was a soldier, part of the conventional military at the time because hands didn't exist yet. Um, and she was in the forces that were fighting with the Oni at the time, but she was a more sympathetic type, and she ended up rescuing Sokaku. Um, and basically feeding Sokaku, albeit rations, but she was a soldier, rations is all she's got. But she ended up meeting with Sokaku's sister, and Sokaku's sister was the chieftain of the main sort of Oni faction. Um, the there was basically a summit where the Oni were definitely on the back foot. There was a reasonably, I would say, a reasonably high chance that they would go extinct because they were losing. And Sokaku's sister was pretty badly injured. It's not 100% clear whether she was actually on the brink of death. It could be that she was. But basically, they tried to strike a deal with each other between her Sokaku's sister and Yanagi to end the war. And the way it's implied, they never come out and talk about it in the corollary material because it's probably going to be explored later, but it's implied basically that Sokaku's sister sacrifices herself, and it's sort of implied that Yanagi drinks her blood and basically becomes part Oni in some respect, and so that allows Yanagi to gain credibility with the Oni, and this is how she becomes Sokaku's guardian as well, because she basically takes over as Sokaku's elder sister, and it allows Yanagi to go back and brag to her superiors that she killed the Oni leader, and therefore the Oni can now be brought into subjection. So she can lead the Oni in some respect now. The humans think that the Oni threat is diffused because their military leader is gone, and Yanagi gains a huge amount of credibility that leads to her becoming important in hand. So yeah, there's a lot that went on in the background there that's not really fully explored yet. Unless you read and watch a lot of the corollary material, you never really see it. But that's the sort of rough gist of what happened.
I see.
So yeah, there's a lot of lore to ZZZ. I know that a lot of the Hoyo quote fans unquote like ZZZ because there's like there's some of them like it because they really like the story, and there's some of them like it because there's no story, or so they think. Sort of the opposite of Genshin, where the entire Western community, as far as you can see from a casual glance, hates the story and doesn't want it to be there at all. Fortunately, this is not a perspective that's reflected outside of the West, but those odious people still make up the majority because the bulk of the noising Western fandom of Genshin are tourists who are only concerned about skin color and sexual preference. But yeah, so yeah, ZZZ is in a tough place for me because I need to make decisions about my level of engagement with the game and pulling strategy and how those two things will fit together. Because I'm never going to go the route of Aristeel's no cost too great approach. Because
Yeah.
I'm just not good enough at that genre, and I'm not going to invest enough time to maximize that investment.
Yeah.
But I mean, the really strong advantage that ZZZ has as a game relative to the other Hoyo games is that constellations, so to speak, are never going to be necessary because skill has the strongest influence on outcomes that it does amongst the Hoyo games once you cross the threshold of having a sufficiently large roster, which is the only real caveat there. Whereas E0 has the weakest influence on Star Rail by comparison, which means you've got to make much, much more perspicacious pulling decisions in Star Rail than you do in ZZZ. In ZZZ, if you can minimally pull every character, you can still play every character. In Genshin, in Star Rail, you could end up with a damn squib if you pull a character who most of their power is locked behind their signature or locked behind their first eidolon or something like that. Like Aristeel is probably the best positioned to know this, being that he has owned for an extended period of time both no signature light cone Acheron and signature light cone Acheron.
Yeah, it's night and day. No stacks on her auto or on her basic attack, and only one stack on her skill.
Like I budgeted for her signature light cone as soon as I saw it. It's like, there's no way I'm missing out on this. I'm gonna be joking.
Yeah,
So
I
I
pull,
blew all my Penacony funds on that.
I blew. I got Acheron before I started seriously playing on some of my YOLO pulls, so I was not thinking about signature light cones or anything. That was so far in the future that I was like, it's probably not that big of a deal. I mean, signature weapons are kind of iffy in Genshin. Oh, maybe I'll let it slip. I did not understand that some of them are absolutely necessary to make the character function because there is no expression of tactile physical skill in Star Rail. There is only numbers.
Yeah, I think that there are probably ways that they can gradually move away from the pure numbers engine approach, but I'm not quite sure what form that will take. I think that there is demand for it though. But getting back on topic, yeah, so ZZZ, I'm sort of in a position of tension now on like what am I going to do? I think I've got a little bit under 42,000 polychrome at the moment.
Yeah,
So
this is the other thing about cost too great in ZZZ is the cost is significantly lower in the than in the other Hoyo games. It seems because number one, you don't need Eidolons or Mindscapes or whatever they're called. Uh, and number two, it just seems to give you a crap load more free pull material than the other games,
I
especially
almost
recently.
get I almost get the vibe that Hoyo is trying to test to see what is actually the most commercially beneficial rate. Because if you look at like it's a real strain to get premium currency in Honkai Impact Third. It's a little bit easier in Genshin. It's a little bit easier than that in Star Rail, and it's a bit easier than that again in ZZZ. Like, they actually have a smooth spectrum of rate of awarding premium currency across their 4 main titles. I can't tell you anything about Tears of Themis, and I don't really want to either. Um, but yeah, it's almost like they're trying to converge on what is actually optimal. Because I am like 75% convinced at least that the Genshin rate of providing premium gems has gone up over the course of time.
Uh, a little bit, but it's like I was nearly drained out in Star Rail. Not quite. I still had about 5,000, 6,000 left after Astra. Um, and my Eve pulling did not go good. I pulled for Eve this week and wound up taking over 150 pulls to get Eve, and then I went for a signature too, and that took until almost hard pity to grab, and I did not have to spend any money. I had, and during the time intermediate time between the two banners, I had the login, the 90 polychrome every day when you log in going, but that was it for, and the like $5 pack of the super, the just value gain one that you could do. But that was it for currency for that I purchased in ZZZ, and that would not normally be enough for things going bad on a pull for you to be able to get the character and the light and the W engine still in any other game. Like that would not be
I,
enough in
I,
Star Rail, and that would definitely not be enough in Genshin.
I'll have to take your word for it because I've never had that experience. I have to bottom out to double hard pity or close on everything that I pull in every game ever.
Oh no,
Um,
Harbor fell down.
I th- I think I've only in Blue Archive only twice have I ever not had to spark a character. It's just I don't have the luck necessary for that. So I have to think about everything in terms of I have to go to double hard pity for everything because 99% of the time that is the case. I have to double hard pity everything. So yeah. Um the fact that I've got 42,000 polychrome means I can get one character and no W engine. That's what that means. So yeah, I need to be much more careful about the way I invest my pulls. And so I kind of want to know more about the way the paradigm will shift when in the next patch, rather than just going for Evelyn, because Evelyn will not complete a team on her own. In fact, she will just overlap with Bernice. There's basically no situation where I currently use Bernice that wouldn't, just be, oh well, and our Evelyn competes with this.
Well,
So,
it would free up Bernice to be paired with Miyabi if you wanted to go that route.
but I don't really want to go that route. I don't think.
I've
I
done
mean,
that.
how many things a week against both Frost and Fire? Like, you're never going to get the full premium benefit.
I mean, I run that team all the time. There's
Yeah,
very
but
rarely one
you're
week to
never going.
both, but
No, there's never one week to both. I don't think I've ever seen one.
yeah, there
But
it's
they have to add some more enemies to the game first. But the pairing Bernice with Piper as an anomaly solution, that's going to. There are plenty of things that double up physical fire weakness. So that's just going to pay off harder than pairing Bernice with Miyabi, because my position on Miyabi is that she has the unique ability to stand in the position of an attack character in a way that other anomaly characters can't. That's definitely true. But what that basically means is that you can pretty much pair any anomaly character with her. And Grace also has incredibly low field time in order to hit anomaly status. So she can work just as well. And using double ether supports also works as well. Like, if you actually go into a fight with Miyabi, Nicole, Astra, and you make it your goal to trigger disorder, you can trigger it nearly as often as you can with double anomaly,
yeah.
provided that you keep thinking about doing it. So sacrificing an entire team to put Bernice into the same squad as Miyabi, when the leftovers are not going to form a very coherent squad. Because remember, I said Caesar needs more on-field time. than a normal stunner. Therefore, pairing her with an attacker is a bad idea.
Ah,
That means that having Evelyn is going to have to either snipe NB and disable the electric team, or snipe Caesar and just work poorly. So at the current position, the pulling proposition doesn't seem very good, even if I like the character. Like, I might like the character, but I won't really get to use her, since she has to basically cannibalize one or both of my other teams in order to function effectively. So it's not really a good pull proposition. It's definitely going to be one of those things where I assess in a second run whether um whether whether the character switching mechanic as an archetype has solidified as an archetype, or whether it's a gimmick that is just shared by Astra and Evelyn together. Because sometimes gimmicks do sort of stop like that. Like, there's two characters that appear to be a match made in heaven, but they never really expand beyond that. It just sort of sticks there. And then there's other archetypes like Robin support in Star Rail, where Robin just colonizes the entire game by playing a role in every archetype that's not Dot. So yeah, well, it remains to be seen what direction it will go. I haven't done Battle Tower yet either, limited Battle Tower. I need to get onto that. I've got a big backlog of ZZZ stuff to do. But because I don't have very much in the way of action game skills, it takes me quite a long time to accomplish these things, so it requires me to set aside quite a bit of time to do them. And I don't have quite a bit of time because for some reason work sucks. I don't know why. Why does everybody do this when they become an adult? Spend all their time doing something that sucks. Why does this world have to be so difficult? Anyway. Yeah, why can't I be a useless streaming wastrel like all the people on YouTube who appear to get paid for playing video games?
people aren't real people, and if you talk to them, they are thoroughly unhappy.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a certain amount of chatter about that as well. Like some of the more well-known VTubers and stuff, their lives have fallen apart recently. Usually not really directly related to their VTubing or whatever, but they seem to be people who have issues of various kinds. I don't know. I wonder how much of this stuff is sort of like driven by our society that thinks there has to be a chemical solution to every problem. Because it seems like everybody's on medication these days.
Yep. RFK's hopefully we'll start weaning this off that a bit. Won't stop it. Can't kill big pharma, but you can.
He's a raging leftist, but he's still kind of a Chad for a leftist.
I mean, compare his physical form to the previous health secretary we had.
I don't like to think about that creature. Anyway, so yeah, ZZZ. There's a lot to do there, and I haven't had much time to do it. I've got a bunch of the materials I would need to build Evelyn, but I mean, it's the advantage, of course, is that because of the ridiculous universality of the materials and ZZZ, I can just turn them to some other purpose. That's always good. Anyway, so I did watch the whatchamacallit, the developer show for Star Rail, but is this my week thing? Or I guess when Fern shows up, the entire show's going to devolve into you people yapping about VR, so I might as well talk about the Star Rail stuff now, since I don't think Fern even plays that one. Where are my notes, though? Where did I put them?
Well, you're finding those. I have no real commentary yet on the ZZ event since it started, and got Evelyn. Took around 230-ish total pulls to get her in her W engine, and had most of the stuff farmed ahead of time for her, but have not found a good team for her yet, so do not have much commentary. There you go. There's my ZZ.
Yeah, like Evelyn would be like the top character, one of the top characters in the game, probably alongside Miyabi, if there was a duo character mode, but there's not. So you have to work out what other character fits that combination.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out a good teamwork for her. I've got her,
But you've
her
got Kaleda. Kaleda's the starting point for most people.
I do, but I got her relatively recently on the Lost 50/50 or on the some YOLO standard banner pulls, I forget. And I do not have her built at all. She might be
Obviously, the
leveled.
obviously the answer to your question is Ben.
Boy. But yeah, the I don't know what to do with a team with her yet with the characters I have built. And her W engine is not a W engine. Her drive discs are kind of effed up. She easily
Well,
meets the.
doesn't she just use a? Doesn't she just use a generic crit
Mm-hmm.
set?
Yep, just generic attack
Just
percent, crit
do
damage, crit rate.
what Woodpecker Electro, and then plus one other set
Yeah,
bonus, whatever you think will do damage.
that's all great. I rolled only crit rate on everything. I have basically no attack percent and no crit damage.
She basically doesn't gain any benefit from crit rate after about 80, right?
She needs to hit 80, but she doesn't want to go higher than that. If I remember correctly. So I'm at the crit threshold, well over the crit threshold, but I do not have any other stats on the gear. And that's not good.
It's just like my face shower. Every one of her hits crits, but it does basically bugger all damage.
So I'll have to rework her discs and do some proper experimenting with Kingi and maybe Lucy and figure out what can be done with Eve and where she can really shine. So I'll report back after I've experimented a bit, which may or may not be for several weeks because there's a lot of games I want to play coming out.
Yes, which also involve fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Steel just cannot get away from it. Well, at least it's not near.
Not near fishing.
Anyway. Okay, so Star Rail. Nothing happened in Star Rail this week, like at all, in game.
Not even a filler event.
There's double drop. It's a double drop Calyx week. That's basically it. But yeah, so we're on the tail end of the patch. So we're in the tail end of patch desert, content desert. So there's nothing to talk about in game other than my continued day after day after day failure to get any gear for my Remembrance Trailblazer.
I gave up.
I have that one piece that I showed you that was good. Pretty decent. I can't remember what it was, but I remember it being pretty decent.
I gave up and just went and farmed traces for Mahjong Girl instead.
So I don't know why. What is it with that set? Why are there no pieces that are any good? Like,
Had to craft the entire set practically for Aglaya.
that set is cursed. I don't even know what's going on there. But yeah, like apart from the one piece I showed you, I haven't got any pieces that are any good. I have exactly one crit damage chest out of like the big mountain of them that I have, and
Mm.
and none of the other stats on it are any use.
Oh yeah,
So how does this even happen?
my
Why is it like this?
my Trailblazer is wearing no pieces of the set because I have not got any to drop, and Aglaya is wearing all the crafted pieces, which half of which are mediocre. In fact, I would hesitate to call them mediocre.
Yes, I was very hesitant about skipping Aglaya, but given I haven't been able to even gear up Remembrance Trailblaze, it's like I'll just be plunging myself into a fresh helping of hell if I try and get Aglaya as well.
No, I just crammed fudging the hyper hyper hacker set 2 piece and the
The Quantum.
yeah, and the Sunday 2 piece for the double speed buffs on Remembrance Trailblazer because
yeah.
I cannot get the right set to drop.
Yeah. I mean, it'll work. It'll work. She likes her speed, something wicked. No question about that. But yeah, she's definitely the most powerful character in the game at the moment in her ideal context, but I don't have Wowo, so I can't keep her engine turning, which seems to be the biggest challenge with her, is that
Here,
you can't let her stop. She has to move forever.
Aglaya is probably the most character restricted premium character in the game at launch.
I've that's I think that's true if you only consider characters at their generic format, because I would say that Firefly is also just as restricted and Rapper is also just as restricted. The thing is that Rapper and Firefly are obligately restricted by needing characters to get them into the ballpark of doing the right amount of damage, because each successive character from the ideal team that you add will move them towards the mark they need to be at. In the case of Aglaya, though, it's actually more like the particular builds of certain characters have to keep her in the spot, because there are interesting ways that you can basically fudge her. uh you don't need to have her team if you are, instead of having the right battery characters, you can opt for alternate strategies, like building, say, a Sparkle or a Bronya or a Sunday, or all three or two of those specifically for advance.
When you said creative strategies, I thought you were saying like get the taunt set and put it on her or something.
You could. I think that would be a bad idea, but you could.
I mean,
You really need to get that energy up. But there are many ways to get energy to people, and there are many ways to get somebody to the top of the ticket. And the Sunday Bronya ad, advanced tag team has actually become one of the staples of playing her. Um, it's the alternate way of dealing with the energy problem. It's to just have her constantly at the top of the ticket.
yeah, it's it can work, but
You need to very, very carefully decide how you're going to spend your energy, though. You can't auto it, because if you spend it in the wrong place, then it's all going to fall apart.
yeah.
Your SP needs to be managed to a T.
So for people that don't know about Aglaya, her kit revolves around her pet attacking. Every time her pet attacks, or she and her uh install mode attacks, her pet gets a stack. And it can stack up to 6 stacks of its stack, and every stack makes it go much, much faster and get more turns, which gives Aglaya more energy and does more damage, and it just keeps her engine turning over. If at any point you do not generate enough energy to re-up her install to reset the pet, it will despawn on you, and you will lose all your stacks and have to start all over. And her energy cost for her ultimate is huge.
Huge.
So this has made her, for most intents and purposes, married to Sunday, adopting Wowo, and taking in Mr. Tail as their pet. Because it is very, very hard to get away from that team.
Yeah, you can do it, though, because you can use Action Advance to substitute for her energy simply by giving her more turns to beat down the enemy. Um, I don't know what the skill point economy is going to be like on alternate teams, because her current team seems to be pretty finely balanced as it is. Um, this is probably the reason so many people are now kicking themselves for not pulling Sunday's light cone, though.
Oh yeah, I have Bronya's like the generic 5-star baby version of his light cone, and it works for getting the engine turned over the first time, but you have to be very careful after that point because you can go very negative, especially if your Wowo is E1 or E0.
Yeah, I have 2 copies of Bronya's light cone at level 80 because it's just so good.
Yeah. So
Like, if you don't know what else to put on a Harmony character, it's gonna work. It's gonna do work for you.
yeah, that
Use
or
Bronya's light cone.
either that one or the one that makes whoever goes after the support get a damage buff are the ones I prefer to go for.
Yeah, but both of the siblings are using that light cone for me because I don't have Robin's light cone. But yeah. So the the show for the preview of the next patch was this week, and I tend to enjoy these shows. I decided I whether I watch it in English or Japanese varies depending. Different languages will have different guest stars on some weeks, some patches, so the actual content can vary a little bit if you it'll value the character interactions as a form of entertainment, but I don't think that they varied in this case. I think it was the same for everybody. I could be wrong, but I just have to reiterate that Albert is the blackest sounding English voice actor I have ever seen. I'm just gonna leave that out there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the thing. Where are my notes? I had them up and then I put them down to check something else, and now I've lost them again. Here we go. Okay, so the first thing I want to comment on, this is the first thing that really struck, because I play Star Rail like I do all Hoyo games with the Japanese voice acting rather than the English. But I decided to watch this in the English this time on a whim. It was like the first link that popped up was the English one, not the Japanese one. So I watched it. And also occasionally I watch the English one because sometimes the Japanese one doesn't have subtitles. Not really sure why. So Aglaya's English voice acting I find horribly cringe. My goodness. It's like it's got a particular sound to it. Maybe Americans don't care, but Texan trying to do British has a particular sound, and it's totally wrong. It's like Aglaya sounds exactly like a Texan thinks an English woman sounds.
I
Hello,
see.
hello.
Hello.
Hello, Fern.
Hello.
We are live.
We are.
Fern is alive?
Technically.
So you pass on a medical level at least.
Yes.
Right.
So we were getting the Hoyo stuff out of the way before you got here, since I assumed you didn't have very much Hoyo to talk about.
I do not have very much Hoyo to talk about, no.
But yeah, at any rate, I got the impression that Aglaya's English voice actress is trying to sound British and doing a very poor job of it on account of being Texan. So
I could believe it.
but
I don't play that one in English because Buttervision.
Oh right, yeah, he's a prominent character this time, isn't he? But yeah, if I recall correctly, Aglaya's English voice actor is also Gui-chan's voice actor.
I mean, they probably are strapped right now because just to find whoever can do a voice if they don't want to go, in the break room and get Stacy from accounting to come do it.
I don't really know what Gwen Ifen sounds like in English, so
She sounds like a streamer.
I guess that's appropriate.
Is that intentional?
Well, Gwen Ifen's a streamer. Like she's an in-universe version of a live streamer.
So she has to sound completely insufferable.
She's fine. Gwen Ifen's voice acting's fine. It sounds
But
natural
she's
enough.
like, well, she's like an archetypal form of a streamer, though, right? So she's not like your TikToker who records whatever they're doing. She's more like somebody who plans her marketing strategy, plans, oh, these are the things that I'm going to do, these are going to appeal to these audiences, somebody who takes it pretty seriously.
Okay.
So yeah, if you want to know more, you can do the ghost hunting event where you participate in the whole social media rat race as a part of Gwen Ifen's crew promoting her series on investigating the paranormal, which is still my favorite event in Honkai Star Rail.
It is a lot of fun, and you get to meet Wowo
and Mr. Tail
and Mr. Tail. You get to be part of the Tiancha Lofu Paranormal Girls Hunting Squad and all the gooberness that goes along with that.
/ amateur therapy group.
Well, that's only because Mr. Tail's there.
But yeah, so anyway, most of it seems like this next patch 3.1 is going. My vibe that I got off it is going to be a little bit more content light than 3.0 and the other previous ones were, and I think that's largely because of the amount of resources they're probably redirecting to rejigger 3.2, 3.3, the content that they've got done to respond to criticisms that they received about 3.0. So they spent a good amount of time talking about the story that is going to be playing out in 3.1 rather than just the mechanics. So the rough gist is that okay, so we've got one of the core flames. Next one is the core flame of reason they're going to go after, and there's going to be some kind of resolution to Maidi's accession to the throne of Krymnos or not. I don't know, since his decision about how he's going to serve as crown prince to his people when the crown of Krymnos is supposed to be passed on by murdering the previous king, and that's just the way it's done, and there's no previous king to murder. So he's got to work out how he's going to handle that. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell. And there's also going to be a heavy emphasis on telling what was Tribby's story. How did she become the demigod of Yanis? So that's that. Character banners for 3.1 are going to be, for the first phase, Tribby and Yunli. Both characters that are reactive types, since Yunli is a character that you have to purposefully trigger her ult at particular times, not just every time it comes up. Like, you can't auto Yunli or she doesn't work. Tribby is a character that reacts to ults by contrast. So yeah, the 4 stars that are going to be a rate up alongside Tribby and Yunli are going to be Lynx, Hook, and Gwynifen. Pretty sure I've got Hook and Gwynifen already at E6. Lynx I don't. And the light cones are going to be If Time Were a Flower and Dance at Sunset for Tribby and Yunli, and the 4 stars are Planetary Rendezvous, Post-Op Conversation, and Trend of Universal Market. So people who need more copies of Trend of Universal Market for the Acheron team's tank would be able to get it on that banner if they were interested in those other light cones. If Time Were a Flower is obviously extremely good for Tribby because it's her signature, but I've heard also that it can also be used as a ghetto Robin light cone because it provides things that Robin uses rather than just Tribby. Like, they're not Tribby specific, like starting energy and that type of thing.
Energy and attack are the things Robin cares about the most.
If Time Were a Flower on Robin would probably allow you to ult first turn on all those game modes where you start at 50%. Which is pretty much the starting point for Robin light cones, is to be able to ult ASAP. But yeah, so there are people who are contemplating pulling it for their Robin if they missed the Robin one or didn't have the Jade at the time, but it's definitely going to be good for Tribby as well. On phase 2, the banner is Maidi and Hoyo, with 4 stars being Arlen, Shuyi, Natasha, who I'm pretty sure I have all of those at E6 at this point. Light cones are going to be Flame of Blood, Blaze My Path, and Night of Fright. 4 stars are Perfect Timing, Memories of the Past, and Secret Vow. Memories of the Past is good. I think the other 2 are probably garbage. But yeah, so Aristeel's going to have to make some serious decisions about how much he wants to bless his darling little coward girl.
I do like Wopo a lot. And she has been the backbone of my account since before I got adventuring, and she's still half of the backbone after I got adventuring. It's probably worth it even if I didn't have a Glaya to get her E1, because it's that powerful.
Now that they've announced that they don't want to let old characters fall behind indefinitely, Hoyo is one of those characters who becomes an indefinite proposition. Like, she's probably going to be good forever, at least in some capacity. It seems to me quite unlikely that they would directly power creep her with a healer who is also a battery that is just better.
Yeah.
Like, if they do Power Creeper, it's going to be in like 4 years' time or something.
Yeah, Wowo has the only weakness in her kit is if you have a rocky start, you will wind up going into skill point debt with Wowo.
That's basically true for every support and sustain, though.
Yeah.
Apart from Aventurine, because Aventuриne's broken.
With her E1, it gives you a 1 turn opportunity to recover from a false start, or 1 round opportunity to recover from a false start. Allows you to build speed on her because she has a whole extra turn of give with her skill active, and the option to go positive if everything comes up aces the whole way through the fight to really compound better. Plus, it gives just a flat speed boost permanently to the entire team, which Aglaya really wants.
Due to the substantially heavier benefit that Eidolons provide in a very numbers locked game like Star Rail, the calculation about use of pulling for Eidolons or not becomes much more important than it would in Genshin or ZZZ. It's definitely like you can make a very strong argument in ZZZ and Genshin both to just never pull for a Constellation or a Mindscape, but I don't think you can make that argument as strongly in Star Rail, because sometimes those abilities are just so powerful that you want them. If you really want to use that character, or there's a team you really want to build that always uses that character, sometimes the Eidolons are just ridiculously powerful. You really, really want them. And
Yeah.
you might be willing to sacrifice pulling another 5-star just so that you can use that team more efficiently.
In this case, I have no use for Tribby. Tribby's an entire banner. I won't be sending any Jade. And I'm not getting Mighty because he has a penis. I pulled too many of those already. And I've had the entirety of the Aglaya banner after pulling her at the start to build up funds. So I'll have between 6 and 9 weeks worth of fun building to just grab an Eidolon for Wobo. I don't need her light cone, and I only need 1 Eidolon to hit the comfort point I want to get her. So I'll probably go for it.
Her light cone's a little bit lackluster for a signature, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good, but you can get away with pretty much any other light cone depending on what you want.
It's one of those ones that's powerful, but it doesn't really change the situation at all.
Yeah,
It just makes her a little bit better.
yeah. If you want it to be more comfortable, stick like the standard Bailu 5-star on her will be equivalent. If you want her to be a better healer, there's plenty of support options for the harmonies in there that'll give her a bit more utility. If you want to go that route in the 4-star box, you don't need her light cone. It's not going to do anything for her. It is much better to go for her E1 to give you the comfort level in play, the potential to go skill point positive, even if barely skill point positive, and the speed buff.
Yeah, I'm pretty strongly tempted to pull for Tribby, because Tribby seems like she'll be extremely beneficial for the Herta. And I don't know what I'll do. Like her signature light cone is extremely good as well, but Tribby also benefits much more than most from 4-star dance. So I think that it's probably she might be just a pull the character and not the signature light cone. We'll see what happens. But I think she'd probably be beneficial, and it gives you the opportunity to have 3 Nahidas. So she's basically Nahida with red hair. But yeah, so I'll probably pull on that one. I probably won't pull on Mighty's side at all, because number 1, he's got a penis. Number 2, he's basically doesn't really have an archetype. Like, he's going to be a very powerful on release destruction character. But there's not really anything that will make his mechanic work. Now, it's quite heavily rumored that his mechanics will synergize with Castorus's mechanics, but it doesn't seem that they synergize in an obligate way. It seems like, well, he's one way of accomplishing something that you could accomplish by another means anyway, and they wouldn't want to lock 2 DPS 5 stars together. That seems like a really bad idea, since most people don't budget their resources that way. But yeah, I don't know where he's going. He might be a more of a live proposition if they had a archetype built around HP drain. But the structure of his skills is actually kind of worrying because he's basically a if we did Blade over again, this is how we would have done him character. Like even a lot of the even a lot of the thematic things he has are overlaps. Like for instance, his characteristic in story, as you find out reasonably early on, is that he can't be conventionally killed. Like his body is immortal, and that's sort of the exact same gimmick that Blade has. Except, of course, Blade desperately is trying to find somebody who can kill him. Um,
Oh, Barbara, what happened to your leg?
But yeah, at any rate, yeah. So those are the banners: Chibi Unity on the first side, Mighty Huahua on the second side. So they talked a bit about their new Divergent universe, Protean Hero. So this is going to be an Amphorius themed Divergent universe, which is going to be built this time around a day-night system. So as the actions advance through combat, it will oscillate between day state and night state, and each state has various effects, and the transition process can also trigger various effects. When you start your run, you choose either day or night, and you will basically be selecting that for whatever bonuses are conferred and how they mesh with your team. And there are also special blessings that you'll get over the course of you progress through the different layers, that will correspond to whichever state you picked. Those are the blessings that you'll get, and they will be effective during that particular state. They also have a secondary buff system, along with the blessings called Titan Odes. So each of the Titans, of which 6 will be available at launch and the other 6 will become available later, will have their own sort of overarching buff system for that Titan that you pick on your way in. And you will be basically doing your team build around those Titan Odes. They're also introducing a strategy system for people who either can't read or don't read or whatever, to basically give you recommendations on blessings and curios, so you don't have to think at all, but it's going to attempt, based on the characters that you've got in your team, to roughly calibrate what will benefit you the most, so you can get some recommendations if you're just completely, I have no idea what I should pick here. It also sounded like, and I wasn't really sure on exactly what they were saying, but it sounds like, you know how you can get generic wildcard trace mats that you can spend to fill in for whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounds like the enemies in New Divergent Universe are going to drop the same type of thing for enemy mats. So rather than getting like all of the individual different types you've got to farm from different types of enemies or from your daily assignments or whatever, they're just going to drop a generic one which can be spent in proportional numbers to fill in for any of the other types. So when you're farming in Divergent Universe, or not that you really farm there, but as you're acquiring loot from the enemies in Divergent Universe, they will apply for whatever particular type you want to use. So if you say don't need any Shansho bits and pieces, you need Amphorius ones, but you never get any Amphorius layers in Divergent Universe, so you never get any mats, well, that won't happen anymore because you'll just be getting generic ones no matter what enemies you kill.
It sounds like that's another fixing the quality of life discrepancy due to Acheron existing. Because like 2 days of 20 minutes of zip around with Acheron and just murder absolutely everything with potato chips will make you never ever have to need to farm those mats ever again.
I don't know if that's true because I've done a lot of that and I still run out all the time.
I never run out of those.
I just tend to dynamically assign my assignments to more appropriate things. I don't run out anymore, but I used to a lot back then. Now I have about 5,000 of every type, so I don't really run out. But it used to be that it was a problem for me, particularly the squirming one. I kept running out of.
Oh, the one that only has a few nodes on the space station.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one. That was the one I would run out of occasionally. but I just basically had one of my assignments said to go gather that one.
Where was I? Right. They're also adding a 5-star remembrance light cone to the Herder store, but I haven't seen anybody say what it does yet. But the leak is probably out there, but I haven't seen it. So yeah, that's the new Divergent Universe, and of course it's going to renew all of the rewards from the previous one. They're going to add the whatchamacallit, the blue crystal thing. I don't remember what it's called. The blue crystal thing that is manufactured out of self-modeling resins. To pick stats, they're going to add that to the rewards that you can get as well. Not about the dice. The dice, I feel the dice trolled me. The dice have never really. They usually offer me a marginal benefit at best. The next thing they talked about was the events. So one of the events this time is basically the Mr. Cold Feet event, except M4S themed. So free stuff, I guess. Not really anything particular. The other event, the main one for this patch, is going to be something called the Awoo Firm. So it's basically an event based around the chimeras, the little cat-like critters. So the lore behind it basically is that if you talk to the people in the garden, that the chimeras are sort of produced by accident when they were attempting to revive some extinct species using DNA, and they ended up creating chimeras instead. But everybody found them so adorable that they didn't want to get rid of them. So now they've bred heaps of them. And since they're quite intelligent, they get trained in little teams to do sort of like help out around the city of Okema to do various simple tasks. So the chimeras are arranged into teams to do these tasks, and the event in question is that there's one team that is basically all of the loser chimeras who are really bad at their job and just fail at everything, and you have to be their manager and basically bring them back to greatness like it's a sports anime or something. So it's a sort of a critter management sim. So every one of these chimeras is going to have their own types of tasks that they're good at and their own stats, and you'll have to arrange them into teams to perform particular tasks and whatnot, and progress through the event that way. Yeah, so it's so pretty much pretty standard for the type of Star Rail event that they've had recently. I don't know if I really talked about it much at the time, but I really enjoyed actually the decorating your room event. It wasn't very long, but I really enjoyed it. You get to see a lot of what the Astral Express crew are like at home. But I also kind of enjoyed the mechanic generally. Like, it was a bit silly and quite simple, but it was still fun. And this one seems to be of sort of like a general sort of pace. It's going to be that same type of thing. There's not really any other events they talked about, because all the other ones are the ones that you see every time. So there'll be, Gift of Odyssey, your free 10 pulls again, Planet Fisher, Realm of the Strange for extra drops, all the usual. They're adding the optimization of being able to directly synthesize trace materials across ranks. So, you can pull 3 of the rank below, or you can pull 9 of the rank below that, rather than having to go up one step and then up the next step. So this is something that I think they're probably rolling out across all of their games, since they all use the same refinement system. And they're adding 2 new character ascension mats, a quantum one and an imaginary one. The quantum one being for Tribby, the imaginary one being for Mighty. And they said also to expect that each element is going to receive one over the course of the 3.x as characters come out. So Anax is Wind, so Wind will come out. Anax is releasing alongside Castoris, so that will be Quantum again. Who's after that? After that is probably going to be Cypher. Don't know Cypher's element yet. Maybe physical. And Hyacine. Nobody knows anything about her. She's rumored to be Dot in the current incarnation of like testing, but testing is sort of like an alpha stage for her. And after that, it's rumored to be Finon and another Don Hung. That's the current rumor. There's another Don Hung coming in like 3.4 or 3.5. Does the world really need another Don Hung? Really?
We don't need more Buttervision. Buttervision stonks are already too high.
Realistically, though, there are a lot of women who really, really like Imbibe de Luno. Like he's the bushy that they're all mooning over. So anyway, that's a thing. Another optimization thing they're adding is they're adding an automatic filter to the Interastral Peace Handbook. So you've seen this in miniature already, where you can set, I'm building this character, which relic set do I want to farm? They are adding a more global one where you can say, oh, I want to build this character, and it will just automatically filter, these are the trace materials you need, these are the enemy materials you need, these are the relics that you're likely to need, these are the ascension mats you like to need. It's just going to, you pick a character and it will filter your entire Interastral Peace Handbook to the stages pertinent to that character.
So like the thing
So you don't,
the thing in CZZ when you select it from the character menu now that they added a patch or two ago.
I don't know, because I haven't done that ever. So yeah.
They have functionally the same thing from what you described.
But the extra feature they're adding on top of that, though, is that as soon as a new character is officially announced, it will be added as a target.
Oh, pre-farming.
Yeah. So they're adding pre-farming to the Interastral Peace Handbook. So like Tribi has been announced now. So if this was live at present, which it's not yet, then you could select Tribi from the menu and it would bring up all of the Tribi mats that are currently in the game, so you could go and pre-farm them. So no more random guessing about what materials are needed. All of the materials that have been made official will be put in the thing, and anything that's not is still subject to change. So yeah, at the end of the preview thing, they tacked on a little video section where the basically with the developers speaking. They don't normally do this. This is quite unusual, unless it's actually all the developers who are on screen, which they usually only do for 0.0s. But basically, this was just a recapitulation of what they said in the developers radio post about refining the progress through 3.0 and the way they approach the future one. And they showed some examples of what they had already done in 3.1 and what they had changed it to as a result of the feedback, and examples like that. So basically things where they had added like really pointlessly trivial pseudo puzzles to things, like, oh well, there's a blockage here, but the only thing you really need to do to solve it is to get the hand of Zagreus and punch it, and then you have to, you dismount and move on. Like, that's not a puzzle, it's just an obstruction to progress. So they decided to remove those things, but they have also decided that a lot of the more sort of like long-winded puzzles, they're not going to gut them straight out, but they're going to basically put chests there, and they will be sort of like, well, if you want the chests, then you solve the puzzles, and the actual story progress is basically going to be in parallel rather than straight through the middle of everything.
So you can.
I'm not sure if I got.
So they're doing it like, I think they're thinking is you can come in and do the puzzles, when you're coming back to do your cleanup if you just want to focus on this.
Yeah, I think that's the gist of it. The impression I get from the way they put it is that apparently most people don't even do the cleanup. Like, I can't imagine that they'd never bother to pick up any of the chests. They just do the story. Like, I mean, that's where all your jade is in those chests. How are you pulling characters? Don't answer that. I don't want to know.
I have, from the posts I've seen on Hoyo Lab, they don't seem to have a methodology. They just kind of pull it random.
But the So yeah, I'm glad that they're not cutting anything out per se as far as broader puzzles are concerned, but making them into side content. But honestly, I still just have contempt for the people who are complaining about it. To be honest, all those people are, oh, I want to play a JRPG style game, but I don't want to have to sit through any exposition about the setting. It's like exposition about the setting is the reason people play this genre. Like, there's not really anything any point to the game other than sitting through lore. Like, that's what this genre is about, sitting through lore. And like, I don't want to read the story, and I also don't want to do the puzzles. So what part of the game do you want to play? Do you actually
I
want to play the game, or do you just want to write lurid fan fiction about homosexual encounters between the characters?
if it was just like removing the I c- I can understand people. I didn't think much of them at the time, and they don't bother me very much. But I can understand people getting frustrated with the puzzles that are so simple. That why is this even here? The ones that
Yeah,
are
well, I
like
mean,
go push a switch
when I gave my feedback, that was what I said in the feedback. So these puzzles obstruct the flow because they're sort of patronizing. Like, there's not really, you can't engage with them because they're too simple. But the thing is that what they said in the developers radio was that the ones that people did complain about were not the ones that were simple, they were the ones that were engaging, where you have to go through multiple reasoned steps to progress through the puzzle. Those are the ones people actually complained about,
Oh, so that
not the ones that are simple.
yeah. The like the goat puzzles were good. Most of the most of the
Well, goat puzzles are all optional.
yeah most of
Like,
the
although I think that the version of the goat puzzle that has been implemented in Genshin now is a little bit more engaging.
oh the fox mini game.
Yeah,
I like that one.
well, not the fox one. I mean the Daruma one
Oh,
that
that
works
one.
exactly like, that one works exactly like the goat one, except it's in 3 dimensions. We can talk about that later. But yeah, so they are making changes, and they're decreasing enemy density. I'm fine with decreasing enemy density, and what I've put in the feedback forms that I've filled out has been a bit more elaborate than that, though, because I want the enemy density to go down, but I want the combat difficulty to go way up. Like, I don't think that you need lots of trash. What I think you need is to implement fewer, much longer, more interesting fights. So have the fights be a means of storytelling rather than just a way of delaying the character. So this is your opportunity to do things like graft and sort of simplified preview versions of mechanics that you want to use in pure fiction or memory of chaos, that type of thing. And have basically most fights be against an elite enemy and their mooks rather than regular mooks, and then put them at like storyline significant locations in a given area, rather than just completely lathering the entire zone in heaps and heaps and heaps of mooks that's going to force everybody to pull for Acheron.
Yeah, I think you said you did as well. I got to an Acheron breaking point with 3.0.
Yeah, like, and so I after the dozenth time that I obliterated some mooks with the Herter, I eventually just like, Acheron, I hope you like trick snacks because you're going to be eating a lot of them.
Yeah, it was somewhere early in the when you travel back in time to the destruction temple. Like
I made it as far as Kremnos before I did it, but then it was, no, this is too much.
yeah, like I got to that destruction temple, saw how many dudes were running around with puzzles I needed to solve. I'm like, nope, nope, Jade, you're on the bench.
Yeah, and it's like, very rarely am I genuinely glad that they put Acheron's technique in the game, but this time I was, because they've clearly adjusted the number of enemies to meet it. Like, this is the reason there are so many enemies is because Acheron, but that's a huge benefit to anybody who is not using Acheron at any point in time. So yeah, don't really want that to be the situation. So yeah, I agree with reducing the number of enemies, but I think that you need to structure your fights throughout your zone in a way that assists the storytelling in some way. That's the way that you should go with that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for that preview. Um, Is Fern going to play the Genshin event? Do we talk about that or not?
I do not know because I imagine
Oh.
it's still patching.
One thing, Fern, you should know about the Genshin patch, specifically you. They
Uh-oh.
have removed the need to get story keys to do story quests with it.
About time, too. That was so pointless.
Yeah.
Right.
So you no longer have to do dailies to get story keys to unlock story quests. You can do them as long as you've done the prerequisites quests.
Yeah. See, it should have been like that all along because the story kids were just dumb.
Well, technically speaking, the story keys still appear to be in the game.
I think
But
they're still
why?
used for hangout events.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
I've unlocked all of those a long time ago, so
Yeah.
I haven't done any of them though because they're so long, and I've got this sort of monomania that makes me want to do them in order, and that means that I'd have to do like Bennett and Covet and characters like that, and they're like,
I've done Barbara and Goros, and that's it.
good old Goro. I really liked how traumatized he seemed in this event at
Yeah.
the idea of hanging around in Greater Inazuma during the festival.
Yeah, like the cook fishwife's just like, I'll give you an out, just get out of here. Oh man. So the story quest is actually pretty good. I don't want to spoil it for Fern if he's planning on playing it.
Distracted.
Which
at
one
the
are we
moment.
talking about? Are we talking about the festival or are we talking about the character?
The character story.
Right. So the character story is the story of Nemi Nightmare. Or not. Mizuki is a psychotherapist instead of a nurse, but the rough gist is the same.
Yeah. She eats dreams, and there are bad feels monsters involved. And
She's a nice girl, but the I was mainly just thrilled to see more of Miko. I'm a card carrying Miko simp, so any time she gets more screen time, I'm happy.
yeah, the English voice for Mizuki. Oh, also do not pull for Mizuki.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
just don't.
really intend on pulling for Mizuki.
Yeah, she's not good. She's designed to be a standard banner character, so her power level is quite low, relatively speaking.
Yeah,
She
she's
looks like she's pulling on waifu power alone.
well, she's meant to be a standard banner character. She's going on the standard banner 1 or 2 patches after she comes.
Yep.
So don't waste your primos on her.
She might as well come off standard banner.
Yeah, she will eventually, given enough time playing the game, you will eventually get a copy or 2 of her from the standard.
Yeah.
Or just from losing 50/50s, which Fern doesn't do because he gets the character on the rate up banner in 50 pulls or less.
Because I don't care enough.
Yes, if you can achieve that sort of zen state of being completely detached and not interested whatsoever, then
Exactly.
you get all the pulls that you ever want.
Yeah.
This is what Buddhism was originally designed for, winning the gacha.
Yes. Yes, it is. The trick is just to not care.
But yeah, her story quest is really good though, and will help quite a bit with you don't need it for the event quest.
I feel like you're shortchanging yourself if you don't do it. I don't. Do you need anything else to unlock it though? Because I don't think it really involves anybody except Miko.
No, just Jai Miko, and everybody else is just kind of there.
It's a pretty standalone story, that character story, but I feel like it without the sort of discussion of the background between Mizuki and Miko, it's not going to make as much sense in the festival event.
English Paimon had a really good line during Mizuki's story quest, where she just looks at Mizuki after Yamiko pops up for the first time, and she goes, "You guys have a very awkward friendship."
I while I don't play in English, I can sort of hear it in my head.
And Like, oh, yeah, your friendship's really awkward, isn't it? Her little Paimon voice. It was really good.
Paimon has really gone from strength to strength, unlike so many other characters in Hoyo games.
Yeah, I've warmed up to the little ration ball. But
My favorite line so far in this patch is a non-line, and it's just the part in the festival storyline where the Tanuki goes to call Yai Miko Auntie Miko or Auntie Fox Lady or whatever,
oh,
and Miko just gives him a look, and there's just this beat
I mean Miss Pink
where
Throat.
she stares him down. It's like, you aren't seriously going to complete saying that, are you?
Yep,
This is the lady who carries around a cardboard cutout.
we are in Inazuma, and it would be wrong if the event Archon didn't make an appearance at least. So Ito makes a cameo early on, but he's not part of the main event.
As the long-horned Oni,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the short-horned Oni, which is Toma, and the hornless Oni, which is Kuki.
Yeah, Gary Oni.
He arrives, he deploys bullying cow, he leaves.
Yeah, he arrives. Kuki shows up and says, "You got work to do. You can't do this one." He's like, "Oh, dang it!" And then
She does the verbal equivalent of dragging him away by the ear.
Ah,
but you can't have an event in Inazuma and not have the event Archon show up. It would just be wrong. So we had to make a cameo.
yes.
I haven't been able to understand the pacing of this event. Like, is this going to roll out day over day or what? Because it just sort of stopped happening at some point.
Yeah, it's the story quest appears to be divided into 3 parts that come out every other day, kind of like one of the bigger long form events like Lantern Rite does, and
Right.
every day a new chapter of each of the mini games will pop up. So, or a new round of the mini games will pop up. So you can save this one for a burst if you want. I've done up to the point I'm at now, up to the point it's at currently. But yeah, it does stop rather abruptly, so there ain't a whole lot to go into with the event.
Yeah, I'd had a few drinks by the time it stopped, and I was like, I don't know if I've done something horribly wrong, or if I just can't see straight anymore, or if I don't know if I've had an actual stopping point, or whether I just think that I have. So I'm just gonna just go and lie down quietly now.
Yeah, if you go to the event and you press triangle, the next one will unlock in 4 hours, and then 2 days on the so it's every other day we're getting requests, it looks like, and then every
I
day
see.
a new level.
I might
This
just
seems
hold
like
off until the story's fully deployed then.
It seems like an extremely content light patch, generally speaking, though.
Yeah, well, they
It's like, Dine, where are you, bro? We need some exposition all up in here.
yeah, you got one job.
Oh, hang on, this is a new system. I've got a mark for Zhongli on my map now. He has
Yeah,
an
so
anecdote.
this is the other thing that that they've deployed this patch is anecdotes. Now, I think that this is the best feature that Genshin has had in forever. If it was deployed the way that it is in my dreams, which is that this just keeps happening forever, and it's basically
Okay.
just little scenes with the characters.
All right.
So it basically makes the whole world just feel a lot more alive. Most of them are quite short. Some of them are a little bit longer than others. Ones that involve Fischl go on for quite some time because she just yaps and yaps and yaps and yaps.
He is rather verbose.
But it's just basically everyday interactions with people you know, type of thing.
I'm tempted to go to the Zhongli one just to see if it's more wink, wink, nudge, nudge references to Rex Lapis.
Well, he is Rex Lapis.
Yeah, but every time he makes an appearance after you've passed that point in the main story, it's always some sort of wink and a nudge.
No, but usually, from my experience with Zhongli ones, and there's a certain amount of randomization from what I can tell to what you get. He's basically just talking about tea and things like that. Very Zhongli things.
It's Osmanthus wine.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Questionable grasp of finance.
Oh, Osmanthus wine is just a meme with Zhongli. I haven't done.
Okay.
I I've only
Eh,
done Rosaria's anecdote, and it was very
I'm
short.
in
The
the
one
way
I got.
harder. I'm gonna go look.
Yeah, Rosario is one of the shorter ones. But yeah, there's like three back to there were for me there were like three back to back for Fischl, which is just Fischl
Oh,
doing Fischl things.
Yeah,
oh, the gratuitous German.
and
Which is why I was so like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm losing so much of my life to listening to Fischl yapping.
she does like TAP, and then her
I
translator
like
has to translate.
it's a very, very simple system with very short interactions. But for me, I feel like it just brings a lot of life to the game as a whole because, the game is full of characters that you allegedly know, but you don't see most of them most of the time. And I think that if this was a regular feature, it'd be really good because it's like for instance, I've had a couple of interactions with Amber, and it's just like Amber's doing her job, and she just basically tells you about her day. What has she been up to lately? What's going on in Mondstadt? What has the Outrider of the Knights of Favonius been doing? And there's nothing particularly groundbreaking, but it makes the game feel more living because all of these characters are still doing their jobs in their various corners of Teyvat.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Except
Zhongli is just
Zhongli,
going
who's
on and
never
on and on
working
about
ever.
tea.
Zhongli's
Yeah.
never working at any
He's just
point.
talking about tea. That's all he's doing.
Yes. He talks about tea. That's what he does.
See, I like that. That's a cool idea, just to add a little bit of extra spice into the game.
So this one has been put in there to run for the length of the patch, basically about 40 days. But I really wish this was just a permanent rolling thing, where each patch there's like a few little vignettes will pop up. It seems like they're on a timer as well, so they don't all pop up at once. They'll pop up a few each day, sort of thing. I doubt that there
Yeah.
are that many of them. I've seen according to the system like around about 20 so far.
Let's
Um,
see. I've got Zhongli, I've got Kazuha, I've got Noel over there, and I think that's all I can see at the moment.
Yeah, different ones will sometimes trigger other ones to appear as well. I don't know
Yeah.
if they're all. I don't know if you can do them all in one binge after they've all come out, or whether you need to do them each day, or what. Probably they will all eventually trigger all at once.
Oh,
But
yeah. Maybe. I think there might be only a certain number on the map at a time because
yeah, there's
I
a,
just had
definitely a
Batman
cap.
turn up.
There's definitely a cap to how many can be on the map at a time. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's I like it very much as a feature, and I find myself looking forward to meeting with the character and finding out what they're up to and so on. So yeah, I really like this feature. It's probably too expensive for them to do all the time since all of it is voiced, or at least in the Japanese, all of it is voiced. Everything, whether it's got its own cutscenes or whether it's one of the ones where you just talk to the character in the overworld without them really moving around at all, because there's a mixture of different types. They were all voiced in the Japanese.
I've only
Nice.
done Rosaria's, and it was not voiced except for Paimon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's because English right now is English right now.
Yeah. Because SAG-AFTRA ruining everything again.
But yeah, I really enjoy that. I think it's really nice. It's one of those things that makes the game feel better than other games in some weird sense. This is not the if you're going to present a game that is like a world, you don't want it to be static. You want things to be progressing and moving around. And to some extent, when you design a game, you're constrained to not do that. But things like this allow you to have a little bit of life injected there because all of these people who, it's an ongoing thing that, the traveler knows people all over the world and they're friends with everybody. They have contacts everywhere. Well, if you don't, go and talk to those people, then it's kind of a bit of an artificial thing. It's an informed attribute rather than a real one. But I think there's actually there's one point where Paimon actually explicitly says to one of the characters, "Well, I mean, it's part of maintaining friendships is to go and talk to people."
Is
So yeah, it all makes a lot of sense in that sense. So yeah, I really like that feature.
All right, and that about covers all the Hoyo stuff that's been going on, other than the news story. One thing I'll mention about the Genshin news story that's out of context. and doesn't really relate to the story itself, is they're learning. The
Yeah,
dynamic
it's
camera
all very elaborate compared to what you saw like 4 or 5 years ago.
yeah, the camera angles are off the charts in the new story quest, and they get a little experimental with some methods of storytelling with Mizuki, but when you have to go have a therapy session with her, but they do that occasionally. I don't think that was done particularly well, but the rest of it, just the generic improvements to camera angles and animations, was much better than we're used to seeing.
Yeah, they've definitely improved in that regard. My hope is, of course, that they will basically start an arms race at Hoyo Central, and
That
that
would be
the
great for
the
everyone
other
else.
the other teams will all start trying to outdo each other in how cool they can make their cutscenes.
Yes.
Because they've been stagnant for far too long. Right. We've been on Hoyo forever.
Yep, my yapping is over. Engage with the VR yapping.
Yes,
Yep.
so, Fern, you're weak, and while you prep that, me and Vol are gonna punch a dragon.
You're gonna go bully a dragon. All right. So yeah, I got my VR goggles. I ordered them late last week, and they would have arrived on Monday this week, but Australian wet season monsoons happened, so it took a week for them to get here. I only got them like midday Friday. So I haven't had as much time as I would like to play with the system. But first thing I did was jump on and play around, get things set up and hooked up through virtual desktop, which works really, really well. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort to set the thing up.
No, there are some optimizations you can make to it, but
Yeah. For the most part, I just used a fairly stock set that I found online. Made a couple of little tweaks, but even without having a dedicated router to it or dedicated Wi-Fi router, it's been pretty good.
yeah, it can be workable for simple games,
Yeah.
especially for things like golf when we were testing stuff out.
Yeah, golf. Walkabout Golf works really, really well just with this system. I need to get something a bit beefier and run that through it.
Mhm.
So yeah, so far I've only really played Walkabout Golf, a bit of Waltz of the Wizard, which is largely a toy box, but it's like a toy box that has grown extra bits.
Wait, since when was
And
this a one phase fight?
Mm-hmm.
oh, was it supposed to be one phase fight?
No, but we got the
No.
crits.
Crit happened.
Crit did indeed happen. So yeah, and well, I tried to set up Skyrim VR, but I started installing mods and somehow broke Steam VR and spent my morning fixing that instead.
Yeah, Skyrim VR works, but you have to use a special installer and overload it with community mods to make it playable.
Yeah, not just
It's
playable,
like regular
but
Skyrim.
well, yes,
It's even worse than regular
it is
Skyrim.
worse. Regular Skyrim, you can play it; it'll work, it's fine. But Skyrim VR is probably the most unimmersive thing I tried.
It is the most tacked on cash grab of all time. And
yeah, like the controls were appalling. You can't really interact with the world. You can waggle your weapon at them, but that's about it.
if you stick your sword tip in somebody and slightly jiggle your wrist, you'll do a bajillion damage.
You'll do a bajillion damage, yes, because it counts everything as a full swing hit. And also, everybody is made of cardboard.
Mm-hmm. Hands don't work. The UI is atrocious. Doesn't work. Like it is.
Yeah,
It is just the worst.
it
So
is
you
absolutely appallingly bad.
So you cannot physically pick up a basket and put it upside down on a shopkeeper's head.
Not without mods.
Yes, you can do that, but there'll be basically as much reaction as there was in the base game.
Well,
but that's assuming, of course, the hand tracking works properly, which it doesn't half the time.
yeah. Well, it's saying you can technically do it.
Yeah, it is technically possible.
Trying to get your hands to navigate the basket and the way it works in default.
Yeah, and if you accidentally bump the grip button even very slightly, suddenly you've pulled out your weapon and you just smacked him on the head with an axe.
Yeah, would not.
So don't.
Yeah,
So I've downloaded a whole bunch of mods. I haven't tried it yet though, and I've got it all set up and ready to go.
yeah.
But yeah,
You've gotta install them via the mod packager. You can't do it the normal mod way through any of the
no,
normal mod processes because the VR ones are different.
they are indeed different, and yeah, they all need to be set up. I've done all that, but yeah, it actually broke the Steam VR API in the process. So I mean, it's doesn't seem to take a whole lot to break that. It could be all sorts of things, but it seems like if you shut down everything VR related, that includes the virtual desktop relay, and then run Steam VR, it'll come good.
Yeah, what you always want to do is you never want to launch if you're using virtual desktop. Virtual desktop has circumvented most of the issues with connecting to Steam by just all you have to do is when you press the menu button on your left controller in virtual desktop,
Mm-hmm.
there's a big old button in the bottom of the pop-up window that says launch Steam VR. Always push that button.
Yeah.
And
This is one of those times to fix Steam VR is you had to not do that, as
yeah.
I found out. So that was fun.
Yeah. The other methods exist for workarounds for wonky games like Skyrim VR. But for 99.9 repeating percent of games, just launch Steam VR first through the big launch Steam VR button on virtual desktop, and then launch the game.
Yeah. I haven't tried anything that's not Steam related yet, but I'll get there eventually. So yeah, so far I'm very impressed with the Quest 3 system. It tracks really well. It looks good once you get everything configured properly. I haven't tried Batman yet. I've got to try Batman.
Just don't try and read something right in your face, and you're good.
Yeah, Virtual Desktop did that initially, where it's like really wasn't paying much attention to where I was when I turned Virtual Desktop on, and suddenly my desktop was enormous in my face.
Yeah, these lenses are much clearer and don't have the fisheye effect, but you are nearsighted. You will not be able to read anything if it's too close to your face.
Yeah, so that's right. It's
Or your
thankfully
farsighted,
all that
rather.
stuff you can just grab that stuff, move it forward, background, wherever you want it to be.
You don't have to move it far from your face. It just can't be right up on your nose.
Just get it off your nose, exactly. So yeah, I'm very happy with that. I just wish I'd had more time to play with it so far. Biggest gripe so far is an obvious one: battery life for the base headset.
Yeah, you've got the fix for that in the mail, though.
I do have the fix for that, except Amazon. It's basically saying it's shipped and the tracking ends there. So
yeah,
yay.
this is why I recommended you get that thing, because especially if you're using virtual desktop at what FPS are you running virtual desktop at?
I've got it locked at 90 at the moment.
Okay.
I could potentially turn it up.
Well,
but I don't want to do that because power consumption.
Did we just? I've never seen that before.
Happened?
What did you do?
Did you hit a new crit record or something?
I think so.
He just vaporized the wolf before it had a chance to go into its dashing phase.
Huh.
I
didn't know you could do that.
We didn't either.
Apparently you can.
I thought it's just, as health gets a certain level, it will automatically stop at 50% and go into the dash phase. But no, apparently you can just womp it.
If you manage to do...
Have you got a new cap crit damage? See if you can find the achievement for it.
Mean to a doggy. How dare you?
Yeah, I can...
That's crazy, man.
That was a big number. I don't even know where in the stupid achievement list it would be.
It probably takes you long to find it. Kind of a mess.
But yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got the battery pack headset coming, but because it's coming from China, that's usually how the tracking works. Is it says it's shipped and it will not say anything further until it turns up on the doorstep.
Yeah, maybe you'll get lucky, and if the local delivery hub gets it, they'll post an update sometimes.
Maybe, but usually if the local delivery hub for me is the local post office, and if they get it, they ain't delivering it.
Yeah. So
get off thy ass and come get it.
So yeah, you can actually drop it down to 72 FPS in the meantime to get yourself quite a bit of extra battery life. 90 FPS will suck that battery dry.
Oh yeah. Well, that's fine because I've got just a regular power pack, and that works just fine.
that you have to keep in your lap.
That I have to keep in my lap because I don't have anywhere to actually store it.
Put it on top of your head and run the strap over it.
I could do that, but that sounds incredibly uncomfortable.
Yes. You were trying
And
to
it is not a small battery pack.
You were trying to golf sitting down because you had to have it in your lap.
Yeah. And the cord that comes with the headset is just that little bit too short to have it comfortably in my pocket. But yeah, beyond that obvious gripe, it's like it makes sense. It's a high-powered machine. It's strapped to your face, and there's not a whole lot of space in there for a big battery. So it makes sense to put the big battery on the head strap.
Yeah. It's
just yeah.
You got the Bobo one, not the official one, right?
Yeah, I got the Bobo one. The official one just looks terrible, honestly.
It is. But the Bobo one is very good.
Yeah.
I did not have any trouble installing the thing. And swapping the head strap out. And it is also the Halo design. You haven't had one before. Previous ones that had a twisty knob on the back are all clamshell designs. But
Yep.
The Halo design puts the weight more evenly distributed across your head.
Oh, good.
And is much more comfortable.
The vanilla strap is not comfortable, and it does not stay put.
No. And you will be fiddling with the tightness every single time and never able to find a position that is totally happy.
Yeah. So every time I put it on, it's like, yeah, okay, take it off, readjust it, try again, and now the thing's fallen down. It's not comfortable anymore, so readjust it again.
Yeah. So if you're able to live with the current latency you have on your local network, then you can delay going for any kind of connection to your direct connect to your PC.
Yeah.
And the next accessory I would recommend would be the hand straps and rechargeable batteries for the dump.
Yeah.
I can get
like
you.
It does take standard AA's at the moment for the handset, doesn't it?
Yeah, just you got to make sure they output the right amount of juice. But the ones I have last 80 hours.
That's pretty good.
And I have eight of them, and 6 of them sit in the charging dock. They take like 2 hours to charge and last for 80 hours.
Yeah. I haven't actually opened the handsets up, but I assume what's in there are cheap and nasties.
The batteries it ships with should last you about 40 to 60.
That's not bad. It's not too bad.
So yeah, I do recommend getting some rechargeable batteries and replacement hand grips, because the you hopped off about a minute after I'd already swapped back because we got off right as soon as we exited golf. But I came back to the PC and was already back on the PC in less than 45 seconds.
I was still figuring things out at that point and accidentally broke everything. So it's like, oh, hang on, I didn't need to do that. But oh well. So yeah, yeah, I've got to line up some more games for it. I've got Batman sitting there in the wings, and I do want to get Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah, Half-Life Alyx gets part of the reason it's such a good VR game, especially for new VR players, is it has a whole lot of VR leg features just built into the dumb thing. Like there is no smooth turning option in that game, and locomotion has no dash button. If you decide to do smooth locomotion, you'll move at a constant clip.
Yep.
And so and it still allows teleport movement even with locomotion turned on. So it's a very, very good game for getting your VR legs.
Yeah, I have found one thing actually is a lot of games now will just call it straight up the gravity gloves, because that feature that they've put in is so essential to basically doing anything in VR.
It is.
Whenever you want to pick something up off the floor.
Yeah, there'll be most VR games nowadays if they're not focused on realism or trying to emulate full body actions, will implement some kind of assisted grab. It may not be the full gravity gloves, but it'll another popular one is look and point at the item and pull trigger and then grip, and you'll just teleport it to your hand.
Yeah. Waltz the Wizard has that, but it's very choosy about when to do it.
Yeah. But there are still plenty of games that have just straight up cribbed the gravity glove design because it was such a good idea.
Yeah, it makes so much sense.
Yeah. There's an entire character in Vertigo 2 that there is no reason to have the gravity gloves in that game. Because it's such a focused gameplay experience. But one character can just do the gravity glove thing because reasons.
Just because.
You can pick up furniture and chuck it around. You can't hurt anything with it, but you can pick it up.
All right. So yeah, hopefully that headset or headband shows up in the next week or so. But beyond that, yeah, it's just been a whole lot of fun so far.
Yep. Multiplayer options are limited, unfortunately. That's why we're always playing mini golf.
There's a lot of multiplayer options out there, but most of them are terrible.
Yeah, they're either rhythm games, which are there's a billion of them,
yes.
or there's mini golf or gorilla tag, and we finally have a good one coming out in Into the Radius 2 is going to be co-op.
Oh, neat.
But that's still in early access, and the co-op is the team is not very big, so they're still figuring it out.
So you can autistically fiddle with your guns together.
Yeah,
yes, you can.
Means Fern can sit there and go, "We got missions to do while I'm reorganizing the shelves for the 10th time."
Yeah, but if the sticky furniture thing is going to be a thing, I am going to be sticking furniture to all sorts of things, and you can't stop me.
There are some elaborate works of art Into the Radius 1 fans have come up with the furniture system, or with the not the furniture system, but the item system. And just
is this like art in the actual sense of art, or is it in the modern art sense?
No, I mean actual art.
Okay.
Like they're using ammo boxes as Minecraft blocks to make art.
Yeah. If you give people a tool to build anything, they will build pixel art.
Yeah, they built the Mona Lisa with ammo boxes from Into the Radius.
There's a certain irony in that. So yeah, it's a good time. It price wise, yeah, it's probably still uncomfortable in terms of price, but at this point, it's basically the cost of the same price as buying a console.
Yeah, as long as you.
Except there are games for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now that we're far enough along in the life cycle of VR, even if you have to go, the games you're picking up are a few years old. The library has expanded because the library hasn't gone anywhere as VR is iterated.
Yes.
Stuff put out for the Quest 1 is still playable on the Quest 3. So all the good games over the last 6 to 8 years that have come out since VR really got a foothold are all workable. Your pickings aren't
that. Some games that were really early on in the process when they were talking like the Gen 1 Oculus Rift, a lot of those were made with a Xbox controller in mind, so modern controllers don't necessarily work with them.
Yeah, well, you can plug in any controller and have Steam emulate it if it's on Steam.
Yeah.
Or even if it's not on Steam, just add it as an on-Steam game and then turn on Steam controller input.
Yeah, Subnautica is the big one I was looking at that, but that needs a mod to get it to actually work.
Yeah, for VR modes of normal games or VR versions of normal games, you're rolling the dice with a lot of them. Like No Man's Skies is pretty good. It was built from the ground up to be a VR thing.
As long as you like telefragging.
Yeah, well, you only telefrag console players or people that are not also in VR. Because it gives the VR person priority.
Yes.
But
that sounds prejudiced.
Well, it was great until I got stuck in the stairway, and Ari tried to rescue me.
Yeah, that was
and you got isekai'd?
I got isekai.
Well, I tried to move something with my hand, and my hand grazed his hitbox, and
Yeah.
this
The
this
game just said, "Welp."
these two things are not allowed to be in the same spot, so one of them has to go.
That one is softer. It goes. So yeah, I'll play the No Man's Sky again. I haven't checked that one yet because it's not a Steam game, so I got to figure out how to do that. I think you just boot it up, change it to VR mode, and virtual desktop should do the rest, but I'm not sure.
You can just add it as a Steam game if you don't have it on Steam. It should work
I could
fine.
just do it that way too. Yeah.
Yeah. It has its VR mode is baked in, and you can just launch in VR mode.
Okay, so if it launches through Steam VR, it should launch in VR mode.
Yeah, if you
right,
as long as you just add it as a non-Steam game to Steam, launch Steam VR through virtual desktop, and then navigate to your library and open it. As long as you've told the game to launch in VR mode, it'll launch in VR.
All right, I'll go do the same thing with Elite Dangerous, which is apparently excellent in VR mode.
Yeah, I've never played Elite Dangerous before, but
it's space trucking.
Yeah, people say that one's interesting. So yeah, but yeah, there's a good number of VR experiences I can recommend now. Even some actual complete games these days.
Actual proper
Not
games,
just
yes.
Tech demos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them
the
are.
good thing is if you just want to play around with a quick little toy, the meta store is full of those, and a lot of them are free.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I never do. That's the thing. I just don't have any really real interest in those toy things. Like, I start to become neurotic if nothing that I do can accrue in any way. So I just sort of I experience a rapidly escalating urge to stop playing. So I tend to avoid those types of things in VR games. Not that I play very many anymore.
Yeah, but there's a lot of developers, especially of the independently developed titles, are either making sequels that are less sandbox and more proper game, or actually going back and appending real game onto the sandbox.
Yeah.
And even for some of the sandboxes now, there's plenty of mods that turn them into full games. Basically, Blade and Sorcery is one like that.
Yep. Yeah, I saw Blade and Sorcery there.
Yeah, it's a good one. Roguelikes are really popular. There are a dime a dozen. Which ones are good and which ones aren't are pretty. You need to just talk to people for trial and error. That's the other thing with VR is you're just not going to have a whole lot of reference points because the player base for VR is not super huge. So you basically just have to go by what your friends recommend and have seen or heard of people talk about, or they played themselves.
Yeah. Let me see. If I go onto Steam. Oh, good. I actually suspected that. Last year actually, about midway, they did a remaster of Riven, the sequel to Myst, and that is VR. That's going to be incredible in VR.
Could be.
Bacteria make holes in water. Just saying.
So you can be stuck in angry in VR instead of in a conventional game.
Exactly. You will get a headache all over again, but this time in 3 dimensions.
I think I already get 3-dimensional headaches, though.
Yeah, I did enjoy Riven in the day, even if the story is like head-scratchingly confusing.
There's a story?
Yes.
I did not play.
I thought stuff just happened.
Stuff does happen, but there is a story that tries to explain why stuff is happening, and it gets even more confusing.
Yeah, no, I didn't play this one. I didn't. No, I think I did play Myst.
But, the first one.
Yeah. Oh, I need
Riven, I think, was a bit more forgiving with its puzzles than Myst was, but it also, at the same time, required you to learn by rote an entire new system of numbers. So there's that.
As you do.
As you do.
So yeah, I'll be glad to give you whatever recommendations I can to to get you started. It's hit or miss which games go on sale on the reg.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
probably not going to use the Zuck store very much
I would not. No, stuff almost never goes on
because
sale there.
that's precisely why. Yeah, we've got Green Hell. I'm not sure how that would perform in VR, but Green Hell was an interesting experience. I hope you like drugs if you're going to play VR Green Hell. Just a spoiler there.
Okay.
Yeah, you do a lot of drugs in Green Hell. So yeah, I'm just doing a quick flick through here, and there is a lot of games that could be interesting, but also look incredibly gimmicky.
Yeah, like tell you what I got in my VR library.
There's also a bunch that say, "Oh look, Beat Saber was cool. Let's do that."
There's a lot of rhythm games. A lot of them are Beat Saber knocks. Some of them iterate and are their own thing. Some of them are rhythm games that don't really use Beat Saber as a reference. But rhythm games are definitely
Oh,
so,
oh dear.
a dime a dozen. Oh no, what?
And then there is games like VR Secretary.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Turn your adult filter on.
Yeah, I thought I already had that stuff filtered out. Let me just, there's a mark I need to, just a blanket tag there. So yeah, that is, you are a CEO at a company and you have a secretary.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
There's a lot of shovelware porn games.
Yeah.
I
Honestly,
see.
we shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So
I'm just disappointed.
let's see here. Let's do this. Way. Jump it in live show chat so you can see it there. There we go. That's my current list of Steam VR games. The only game not on there that I've talked about is Batman. All my other
Yeah.
VR games come through Steam. And Robo Recall. Robo Recall is not on there. That is also Oculus Store exclusive.
I see.
Uh,
Tetris Effect
yes.
honestly seems so freaking trippy on just a flat screen.
Yep. Now
That
doing
would be sensory overload in VR.
it is.
Yeah. Like, I liked Tetris Effect. I really did. But I just trying to imagine playing that game in VR. It'd be like playing
It's like playing
one of those.
LSD.
Yeah, basically. It's all the lights and the pretty colors and maybe some Tetris.
You attempt to do Tetris while tripping on acid. I mean, that's
Yes.
what Tetris Effect is. Now do it with depth added to the trippy.
Yep.
Did they ever make a VR version of Res?
Check.
Let me see.
Res
Infinite.
Yeah, Res Infinite has a VR version.
There you go. Yeah, it does. So yeah, you can play Res Infinite. Actually, what would be a great VR experience would be Xenoclash, but I don't think anyone's touched that franchise in 20 years. The only good first-person brawler.
Yeah. Let's see. Of my list, Arizona Sunshine 2 are both pretty good. I haven't finished Arizona Sunshine 2. Arcanage so far has been pretty good. I put it on the back burner though. Blade and Sorcery is good with mods. There's plenty of mods that are full game experiences, but the game as its base game is kind of whatever sandbox.
Yep.
Boneworks is pretty good and as both its regular base game and the mods that use the stuff it's got going on there. Let's see. Oh, I actually have
other
Elite
games
Dangerous.
I've been recommended are Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades, and Expect You to Die. They're both kind of the sandbox games that grew a story.
I Expect You to Die is a toy.
Yeah.
It is
Up to
not.
3 of them now, apparently.
Yeah, it's just a series of escape rooms in 3D or in VR. It is very much so just an experimental thing. It is You're not going to get a full video game
Oh,
out of those.
now there's a game with a story.
But
The game called Tethered. It's a VR city builder, basically. You've got some cute little critters on an island, and you need to not get them killed. It is also incredibly dark because when they get sad enough, they just go and jump off the edge of the island. But that game is made from the bloated corpse of the Creatures franchise and what was going to be Creatures 4.
I see.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Creatures was basically your virtual pet type game where they had a full genetic system and voice recognition and all that sort of stuff in the 90s.
1996, if I recall correctly.
1996 for the first one, yes. And that game was going to have a 4th game in the series, which sent everything into a full 3D environment.
decades ago.
I'm going to ignore you said that because this is a childhood game.
Yeah, when people mention a 15-year-old console to me, I don't think of the PS3. I think like the Sega Saturn.
Yeah. And you can't say otherwise because we will just stick our fingers in our ears and go la 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 la. But Creatures 4 kind of fell over. It's been handed around like 5, 6 different hands at that point, and someone just said, "Okay, we got these bits. Let's just crank out a game," and that's what you got.
Yeah,
It is honestly not a particularly good game.
I see.
It's fine. It does what it's supposed to, but yeah, it's not very good.
Let's see here. Other rapid fire recommendations. Half-Life Alyx is obvious, as the should be the first big one of the first big VR experiences you go through. If only to get your VR legs, but also because it's dang good. Hellsweeper VR is a fun little roguelike that has multiplayer that works sometimes. There are they've been trying to set up crossplay in it, and it has caused desync issues as of late. But if they can get those ironed out, that's a fun little roguelike. Not a whole lot of meat to it in that it's too easy by default. But maybe there's some modifiers you can unlock that make it harder. I have not delved too deep into it. It's also the game that will make you the most sick if you don't have your VR legs.
Sounds about right. Hang on a minute. Mega Dimension Neptunia VIIR is a VR game.
Okay, you will find.
Yeah, but this is one of those things where they add waifu mode onto the game.
Yeah, so
yeah,
Trails into Reverie is a VR game because the beach time first person scenes can be done with a VR headset, and
it also has waifu mode.
Yes, a lot of games that have any kind of first person mode or any kind of camera model viewer mode will tack on the VR tag. Just because they can. So you got to be wary when searching the VR tag on Steam because a bunch of those games are not VR games. They are.
Like just looking at the going down, actually looking at the features of this game. Yeah, it's waifu mode.
Yeah, so be careful with that. Into the Radius, I've talked about it at length before. Into the Radius 2 is coming out, still in development though. Metro Awakening is supposed to be the next great big step up. I am deliberately holding off playing it. Because I'm not caught up on the Metro series, and I do not remember a dang thing about Metro. Although I think it's a prequel, and I want to be. I think
it is, yeah.
And I want to be in the right headspace before I jump into something that's supposed to be the next big VR killer app. But it's out there. No Man's Sky has a really good baked-in VR mode that they spend a whole lot of time working on.
And No Man's Sky is pretty chill at the best of times.
Yeah. Pistol Whip is a rhythm game that is not at all trying to copy Beat Saber, thankfully, but still a rhythm game. And with mods, you can have custom levels and stuff like all the rhythm.
Yeah, there is Super Hot, it's super hot.
Super Hot is yoga for gamers.
Yes.
What?
Okay.
Yeah, it requires you to actually physically dodge the bullets.
So the way Super Hot works, for those that don't know, It is a first-person shooter, and it has a console version, but and it works exactly the same way in VR. When you stand still and don't move at all, the enemies don't move. When you move, including pulling your gun up to aim, the enemies move, and so do the bullets. So you will have to move very slowly and make very big contortions with your physical body in VR to dodge all the bullets and pull your gun up and aim and shoot. And getting impatient and not doing the version of gamer yoga that the game requires will get you shot, and you die in one hit.
Yes.
So
But when you win, though, it shows you exactly what you did.
it do. It is a very good VR game, and the gimmick is not long enough that the gimmick outstays its welcome, but it's still long enough to feel like a complete game as long as you can get it for like $15. But there is no illusion here. What you're doing is gamer yoga.
Yeah.
People will try to guss it up and swear up and down. No, no, no. It's totally no. You're doing yoga for gamers. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Uh,
The other big recommendation, of course, I've seen thrown about is Skyrim VR, but you've got to do work.
Yeah, that
like
one.
a lot of work.
Yeah, for both Skyrim, Fallout VR is some people say unsalvageable even with mods.
Skyrim, Fallout VR is really, really bad.
Skyrim VR has the autistic modding scene for it that was able to
has had for about 15 years.
Yeah, that
Nearly.
they were able to back into a lot of the stuff from the base game for the generic mods, and the VR custom mods took a while to come out, but it's a homework project if you want to get that to work. But I've heard it is very good if you manage to do that. I have not sat down and actually done.
There is a couple of options if you want to just do a one-click done thing. Be prepared though; you're going to have to give Nexus Mods money.
Well, the what everybody recommends for Skyrim VR is I forget what the tool is called, but there's a third-party tool.
Wabbajack.
Yeah, Wabbajack. You get Wabbajack, you install a package or two of mods that you want, and then you scoop a few individual mods and load them separately if you want those, and then you run it through that. And even that, though, it's janky how you have to set it up.
Yeah, but for the most part, if you want to just get a basic functional game, you've got the Foos pack, which you can just install as Foos, or you can install it as Foos Row or Foos Row Da, depending on how much you want.
Yeah. The game needs a lot of help.
But the more you add, the more work you need to do.
Yeah, but the game does need a lot of help. So it's a bit of a homework project, but maybe one day I'll give it a shot. Maybe if Fern comes back with good experiences. Ibu liked it after he got all the mods working. But it is an adventure to get all the mods working.
I've had the hood up on Skyrim a few times over the years, so it's not unfamiliar territory.
Yeah.
There is like the possibility of it, being absolutely perfect. Everything looks like it works, and then it just doesn't.
Yeah. All right. What else I got on here? Until You Fall, good roguelike, solid progression through it, totally gameplay focused, easy way to go. If you like the roguelike genre, it's sword combat or melee combat only, with you having to raise your sword, or you have two hands. So you put a sword in one hand, you can put another sword or an axe or whatever in the other hand, or you can put like a fist weapon there or a parry dagger or something, and you have to parry attacks and attack in cadence once you break an enemy's guard by doing slashes between their slashes. It's fun times. I like Until You Fall a lot.
And on the other side, I've found a cash grab, which is Borderlands 2 VR.
Yeah, don't do that one.
Yeah. How the mighty have fallen.
Vertigo 2 is great. Oh, what's up, Paul?
Yep.
They're proudly announcing the fourth Borderlands coming out soon, though.
Which has been welcomed with all the fanfare of a dentist appointment.
Yeah.
What a hired property. I ran that one straight into the ground.
Directly into the dirt. Why is it saying it's the Borderlands 2 is similar to Conan Exiles and Elden Ring? It is not close to either of those games.
It just cares about the stupid tags. So yeah. Let's see.
Steam, are you drunk?
Yeah. Wrap up the quick recommendations for you. Vertigo 2 is really, really good. I've now finished it,
Mhm.
and it was a good experience the whole way through. I actually did the achievement playthrough and the boomer shooter playthrough, which
Nice.
after you beat the game, you unlock 3 different game modes. One of them being boomer shooter mode, where you have to run around and collect health pickups and ammo, and that's a lot of fun. It's also very hard, and that was good. Although you do have to play Vertigo 1 first, and Vertigo 1 is not worth the base price they asked for. So you got to wait for a sale on that one, and you do have to play through it first, or you're not going to understand anything that's going on. Walkabout Mini Golf you played already. That's the go-to. Just stick around in VR multiplayer game and have some fun playing with golf.
It is really good for that.
There's something about mini golf where it's always fun.
I am prepared to. Actually, I'm actually surprised about the amount of crossovers they've got.
The Elvis Presley map.
The Elvis Presley map, the Labyrinth map, if you want to be traumatized by the Bowie Bulge all over again.
Yeah, they do got that. They have the Wallace and Gromit map.
In 3D! Wallace and Gromit map is going to be full of cheese balls. All the balls will be cheese.
Yep. All the
Also sheep.
Yeah, sheep. They have
sheep ball. There you go.
They have all the Jules Verne major stories, 20,000 Leagues, Around the World in 80 Days, Journey to the Center of the Earth.
I didn't see 20,000 Leagues, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, 20,000's in there. So yeah, tons of fun courses.
Yeah, like we did the Journey to the Center of the Earth map, and that was good.
It was good, even if I took 18 strokes to get the last hole.
Yeah, which is supposed to be a hole in one.
There is no way to control that bounce.
No, it just does whatever.
Like, I hit that ball, I swear, perfect at least 3 or 4 times on the way to that 18th stroke, and it did not care.
Yeah.
I would recommend Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, but it is one of the early VR games, and it does not run very good.
Yeah, and I've never been a big fan of Walking Dead. It's like, oh, zombies.
Yeah, it is just a story shooter with zombies in it. But it was technically good, especially for the time. Unfortunately, getting it to run on modern systems or just start on modern systems is the bigger problem.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of that.
It in particular is known for having issues. And then I have a medieval VR, which I've not finished yet, but played a little bit through. And if you wanted to play a Doom graphics boomer shooter in VR, don't play that one until you got your VR legs. But it's fun.
Did you say medieval? As in
no, a medieval. AMID.
Oh, okay, a medieval. I was thinking Sir Dan Fortescue in VR.
No, not that one. Although that would be funny.
That would be actually pretty cool. Let's do that.
So that's what I got from Steam. My sister got me Synth Riders and Ancient Dungeon for my birthday recently. I have not played either of them though, but Ancient Dungeon is a multiplayer one. So if
Ancient Dungeon, eh?
If it turns out to be good, I can give that one a recommendation and try out the multiplayer in it. But as with all VR games, I need to touch it first before I recommend it to friends.
Yeah, gotta check it. Yeah.
And Synth Riders is the rhythm game, but it's different enough from the other ones that it looks interesting. It looks certainly more physically active, so if you want to lose weight, it's probably good for that. For the Oculus, for the Oculus games, the ones I played, I got Moss on the Oculus, which is a platformer where you play through the stages over a table, and when you cross through the next screen, the table changes, and you can walk around the table and do all kinds of fun stuff.
Is that the one where you're a little mouse?
Yeah. Well, you control the little mouse, and you are actually a big giant person over the table, and the story is playing out over the table, and you can do things like bump the table and twist the table, and it's a fun enough platformer with a nice gimmick. It doesn't outstay its welcome, but it's always way too expensive for how long it lasts. It's pretty short. So I don't usually recommend Moss unless people just have infinite money to throw around.
Keep an eye out for it on sale, if it ever goes on sale.
Robo Recall is one of the few games on Oculus that goes on sale all the goddamn time, and it's just a fun arcade shooter. with a lot of character to it. I recommend that one. Batman you already have because you got it for free for doing the promotion thing.
I actually got that for free just for buying the console.
Oh, does it just come with it now? You don't even have to do
It comes with it, yeah.
Yeah. So okay. And then I think that's really it for Oculus games. I don't buy things on Oculus unless I have just like credits sitting around for whatever reason. But yeah, the Oculus stuff never goes on sale. But Batman is the only exclusive there really worth jumping on, and you got that for free.
Yeah, I think I got like $10 left, so maybe I'll pick something else up if I can find something.
And try and wait for a sale for Robo Recall to hit $10. It happens all the time.
Actually, I can probably actually look at it from here because it installed itself on my phone. Let's see, what can you actually get for $10? Probably not a whole lot.
So yeah, plenty of games that are out now that I've played that are recommendable. Unlike in the past where it was Half-Life Alyx and Beat Saber. But it's
Oh no. The most recommended game that popped up when I opened the app was Titanic Simulator.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I remember the last time somebody tried to go visit that boat.
It never ends well.
With a video game controller. It didn't end well.
It did not end well.
Is that too soon? No, it's been like 2 years now.
Yeah, that's... I mean, what else are you going to expect for a simulator about Titanic? It's only going to end one way.
Yeah. So yeah. Thankfully, you're not stuck in the Beat Saber Half-Life Alyx is all we have bucket.
Yeah.
It's still not a very populated platform, but it is significantly better than it was a few years ago.
Robo Recall is 47 Australia bucks.
Good lord. Yeah, don't pay it for that.
That's the unplugged version. That's the only version that's up there.
Yeah, don't buy it for that. Wait for a deep discount on that one. It's not worth.
It's not showing me how many bucks I have.
Yeah, it's not worth more than about 15.
Yeah. Honestly, I was expecting the Meta Store to be overpriced, but yikes.
Yeah, I guarantee you, Zuck has not paid attention to international currencies. He's not the most attentive individual. He is a lizard man after all.
It's not like Meta went down all that well for them, generally speaking.
No, the metaverse went about as well as everyone told them it would.
Yeah. So, also, do not update the headset if it ever tries to update without consulting the update first, because it's Zuck. This is the one quirk with the Meta headset. They sometimes screw things up with their updates, and they are not mandatory to play anything that is not on that headset and connected to the internet.
All right, if I don't need to update it, don't update it.
Yeah, wait until you get the... we'll give you the all clear. I'll give you the all clear. But yeah, it can do things like FLA tracking or not finish removing features. Like they removed the Oculus built-in achievements a couple of versions ago, but the functionality for accessing a scoreboard that didn't work and wouldn't load was still there for some reason.
Weird.
So
do they not test this stuff before they push it out to the public?
I imagine the team that is working on the Quest is probably rather small.
Yeah. All right, so that's probably going to be bulk of my week for the next week is going to be just messing around with that.
Yep, and be sure to play more golf with us.
I will try and play more golf with you as time allows. Because yeah, that golf, like I said last week, mini golf in real life is kind of lame, but digital mini golf is annoyingly fun.
Yeah, it's just the fact that walls are a suggestion really helps it be enjoyable.
Physics tend to be a bit more flexible.
Yeah, well, physics are actually rigid. It's just questionable what shape that wall is. Is that rock a solid surface or is it a slope?
Which one do you want it to be? It'll be the other one.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's fun. but it solves the one real issue of mini golf that I have when I play it with people, and why I don't like playing it in real life.
You gotta go chasing the ball.
Well, that, but also when you hit the ball too close to a wall, you have to do like the putter length measure to get it off the wall.
Yep.
Uh, and in VR though, the wall is a suggestion. You can just putt straight through the wall.
Yeah, you can just walk into the wall if you really need to.
Yeah. So it takes the one gripe about mini golf that's a giant pain in the butt, and all the stages are fun enough that dumb shenanigans happening in that game all the time on certain holes, or just when you find something fun on the map, makes for good multiplayer time.
Yes. All right. What news do we have this week?
You didn't tell me about Monhan.
Monster Hunter. I only played the new beta. Oh, why did you leak that there, Nick? Discord, get off my screen. Why? I moved a window and then I saw that. Thank you, Vol. Why?
The Bowie bulge.
The Bowie bulge. Yeah, I played the beta of Monster Hunter for like 15, 20 minutes. Just to see how it was actually going, and I'm happy to say that they've actually optimized it somewhat. But that said, the monster that they put up is the big bad for the first act. It's basically this wild version of Nergigante. Yeah, he's an angry boy.
Well, they do that for all of them, where they put one of the bigger ones up on front.
Yeah. So I got paddled around, and then it got into a turf war and somehow didn't make my PC melt. And yeah, it was... Oh, I'm in cutscene land. So we gotta wait for Nuvalet to shut up. So yeah. You're not... It's not supposed to be possible to pronounce the capital letters, yet everyone does. So yeah, I'm actually, like I said, very happy that they've optimized that. Apparently, as Vol said earlier in the week, they've got a better build, which hopefully will be the gold build.
Yeah. Inevitably, there will also be a fan patch that helps optimization. I'm still not super jazzed about them trying to cram the RE engine into a shape it's not supposed to fit. Because
but they've been doing that since the RE engine existed.
Well, they've decided that it's going to fit now, and ultimately, an engine is more of an armature to which you can attach dingalings. So, in theory, you could render the RE engine retrofitted to be able to handle different situations. Maybe it's not a perfect fit because it wasn't designed for this, but they aren't going to go back and do something else, so there's nothing really to compare it with. From what people were saying online, you can actually retrofit the current beta client with DLLs and system files and stuff from the benchmark. And if you do that, then you can smooth over some of the rough edges of the rendering using some of the more advanced features of the various graphics cards on the market. But it's still kind of a dog to run. That's not going to stop happening anytime soon.
Oh yeah, it still needs a beefy system to run no matter what you do.
But it's not at the stage it was during the first beta.
Yeah, that first beta was rough.
For most people, they couldn't get it to look much better than a PS2 game. Now it's sort of like runnable, but I would urge not really trusting that benchmark, because I ran that benchmark myself and it said that I got, excellent performance, but I sat there and watched the benchmark. I didn't run it and leave the room. And the first half of it is all pre-rendered.
Yep.
And so it's not really worth much of anything, since the camera is not behaving as a real camera would. It's behaving the way a camera that has been scripted to do certain things and have certain things in the shot would. So basically, the performance is calculable for the entire first half of the benchmark, and the back half of the benchmark actually has very little action in it. So the result is derived from just the average score across the entire benchmark, when the first half is irrelevant and the second half is quiet. So you're always going to get a better score than you should.
Yeah.
Like, if you
That-
think about the amount of sort of like particle effects and lighting associated with an actual fight with Namiel in Monhan World, and compare that with the sort of crap that they show you in that benchmark, there's no similarity there. You're going to lose like 25 frames compared to what they show you in the benchmark.
That benchmark is also horrendously outdated at this point too.
Well, it's more up to date than the beta is. The beta client is.
Which is really weird to say.
They announced that the benchmark the benchmark is constructed on a version of the game engine that is more recent than the open beta.
So yeah, I'm happy with everything so far,
except the price.
Except for the price, I'm gonna have to bite the price. So there's no choice.
I could buy 3 games for that.
I know, right?
Three expensive double to AAA games.
But no, you get 1 Monster Hunter. They better not drop the ball. That's all I can say.
I'll have to work out which gachas I want to write off if it comes out optimized enough for me to play it, because it's a time-consuming game to play.
You should probably do that anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah. Looking forward to Monster Hunter. I'm glad my PC can run it without catching fire, at least for that beta build. I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to squeeze a little bit more graphics out of it from the final build. We'll see.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet on it. I'm just the only thing that's acting as a crutch for my PC is the fact that my monitor caps out at 1080p, because I decided that I preferred to have a really big 1080p monitor rather than a modest 4K monitor.
Honestly, for the price difference, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. My graphics for Wilds, at least at the current build, are a little bit better than World, so I'm gonna be happy with that.
If I
I was a bit unimpressed, to be totally honest. Like when I watched that benchmark, it's like, this, technically speaking, the graphics are better than World, but they aren't, in my opinion, they aren't like 6 or 7 years or whatever better than World.
No, that's like 2 years maybe. The other thing, big gripe I'm going to have to throw at them is World kind of started this trend, but everything is washed out and dirty looking.
Yeah, I don't know why it needs to be that way.
I
felt like that wasn't nearly as much the case in whatchamacallit, Sunbreak and whatever the other one was called. I can't remember. Rise and Sunbreak.
Rise and Sunbreak were a lot more closer to the older games in terms of their tone and their theming. They were allowed to be a lot more bright and colorful.
Even with World compared to the Wilds, you still had like the Coral Highlands, and even though it was a little bit more muted, it still was colorful and an interesting place to look at.
Like, we haven't seen a whole lot of Wilds outside of dust storms and deserts at this point, so there might be colorful areas, but at the moment everything is brown and dirty.
Yeah, hopefully they have a Coral Highlands equivalent.
Yeah.
Rise had better waifus.
Rise had top tier waifus.
Well,
it had 2 of them.
And World, you just have the handler.
What's the opposite of a waifu? She's that. I'm glad that actually for Wilds they've just taken the temporary ace handler that you get, and just says, yeah, let's just do that. So that's your handler for this game.
Yeah. Oh. So yeah, Monster Hunt's coming out. It's gonna munch our time.
if I
They've
buy
also
in.
got
I'm still really freaking shell shocked by the price tag.
yeah, that's the price tag is really steep.
I mean, I know they
Yeah.
keep talking about how much it costs to make games and how games have been keeping the sticker price down relative to inflation, but
I know.
In general, people's disposable income has gone down over the last few years.
The unfortunate reality is all of our governments printed money in mass.
Oh, mine didn't. They're just incompetent.
So they're just a price increase is inevitable. The Wild's price increase is a little ridiculous, but I'm expecting to be winding up paying $80 US fairly shortly here.
Yeah.
The only time I've seen video games as expensive as this was like Majora's Mask cost this much, and also Final Fantasy 9 cost this much. This is what I remember. So they probably cost more relative to inflation as well because the sticker price was similar.
Didn't Majora's Mask come with the expansion pack as well, though?
It did.
I'm talking about the version I'm talking about the version that didn't come with the extra RAM.
Oh, I see.
I never actually saw that version anywhere. It was always the RAM boost version.
Yeah, I think I only saw the RAM package version in our stores.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those games that's I don't like the price, but I'm gonna get it.
I'm gonna wait and see, because even if it's being released simultaneously on PC, it's still a console port, and I don't know how well it's going to work now that they're pushing the envelope with the technological thing and trying to release it on the same day. Like, they have not
Something's
got
gonna
a track record of being able to do this because they haven't attempted it before.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that I'm going to jump on like first day or anything like that. Especially if it's got some, like, I don't know, some weird bug in there that will just like corrupt your save if you do something wrong with something, because it takes so long to play Monster Hunter, to develop an account on Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
All of the sort of the silly PC bullcrap, I need to be confident it's not there.
Given the shenanigans that happened with Dragon's Dogma 2, it's definitely a wise move to make.
Yeah.
Although, yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2, they got that sorted out largely within a week.
Well, they never fully sorted it, unfortunately. It's still
it's still got some jank.
It's still going to have performance issues in any of the cities. It's playable now. You're gonna have to turn your shadows down though. If I can get Wilds to run at 60 FPS at 1080p with the shadows on medium or low and the particle density on medium, we'll be okay.
Yes.
But I'm expecting to have to crank down a few other settings as well.
Yeah.
Because consistent FPS is a little important in action games.
All right,
which is why I brought up the point about an MEL, because like that's an actual combat circumstance that's full of light and color.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because Namiel's whole shtick is to turn the entire area into a discotheque.
Yep. A wet one.
Yeah. And then, it's looking like we're going to be going into single player. Oh, I'm going to be going into single player lane for sure, even if I have shoes with Monster Hunter. I still have Trails to Daybreak to play through, which I did not talk about and do not have time to talk about.
We also have the 7.2 patch for Final Fantasy coming up.
Yeah.
Which
do we though?
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I've got to.
Whether or not I care is definitely leaning on the no, I don't side at the moment.
It's going to depend entirely on the not exploration zone, field op zone for me, and
Field op, yeah.
It unfortunately will probably get pushed because I back a bit before I go and demo it. While it would be cool to get in there at launch, there are just other games I want to play right now. Like, I want to go through Daybreak. Wilds will be coming out, and I want to see if I can run it. And if I can, that's going to chew into my time. And Final Fantasy right now is on the bottom of the priority list to go see if a zone can salvage an expansion that I really didn't like.
Yeah,
They
and
put
I think
themselves here. This is not something that we're doing unilaterally. They decided this was going to be their place in the pecking order with their actions.
yeah, honestly, I think at this point for me, it's also going to be a like just put it back, wait and see, because I've got, I'm going to have Monster Hunter. I got VR to play with. And especially if I get like Skyrim fully up and running in the most immersive way that is possible out there, then I'm probably going to fall down a rabbit hole there.
Yeah, and that's not even taking into account all the VR games I've got sitting in my library and that list I linked to that I haven't finished or haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah,
Like the one of the games on there, Arcanage, is really fun from what I've played. I've only done the tutorial and like a bit of the first mission, but it needs time, and I only have so much to allocate in a week.
yes, 3 times at a premium. All right, what other news do we have? We'll quickly skim through all that.
So a few announcements worth noting. Liza P is getting its DLC announced finally.
Pretty cool, by the look. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Liza P Overture.
There's another thing on my list. I still need to go and play Liza P.
Yeah, it's good vidya, but I don't see even a release window for it. It's just gone from they're probably doing DLC to it's now announced. But yeah, I'll play more Liza P.
Yeah.
They've even made a whole bunch of changes to the base game, with just a whole bunch of quality of life stuff that may make a replay worth it if it takes enough time to come out.
Nice.
So
oh, that reminds me, I got Xenoblade Chronicles X coming out too. I got to play through that. There you go. There's another game to play other than Final Fantasy.
yeah, and then we've got the DLC characters for Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising got announced, and
Nice.
when they'll be coming out, they'll be spread throughout the entirety of the year for the next 6 characters. So about one every 2 to 3 months. But yeah, when those pop up, I'll definitely want to check those out. Yeah, we got Sandalphon for right in the middle of everything that's coming out that I want to play in February. Galleon, Wilness, Meg, and Ilsa. And I think there's also going to be crammed somewhere in there a crossover character, like 2B was, that isn't on that list. So a few of those I'm definitely interested in. Not super interested in Sandalphon because I'm not a 16-year-old girl, but but yeah, there's stuff there. Other announcements. Let's see, there was another one. Oh, Stellar Blade's coming to PC, losing PlayStation exclusivity.
Honestly, Stellar Blade just seems horrendously overrated to me. I don't like. It's got a bum in it, I guess.
I've heard it's a competent and good action game. I will not buy it at launch price, but if it is making its way to PC, in theory, one day it will go on sale on Steam, and I'll be able to scoop it on the cheap. So it is the thing of note here is was one of the few things they had as a console exclusive, and it ain't there anymore.
They to this day, I think, still only have one console exclusive of any merit, and that's the Dark Souls remake. Actually, no, did they bring that to Steam?
No, they didn't bring the Demon Souls remake. It was the Dark Souls remake. It was the Demon Souls remake.
Demon Souls remake, yes.
Yeah, and it did nothing new gameplay wise other than a few super, like almost ARG levels of hidden garbage that you could do by performing very specific actions.
And gave the thing a very light coat of paint.
Well, the coat of paint was fairly substantial, but mechanically, level design wise, boss design wise, it's still Demon Souls. Play Demon Souls. You played that video game.
But what about Bloodborne?
Yeah,
what about Bloodborne?
Well, Bloodborne was PS4. So
yeah, it's the thing is, it's a meme at this point that they refuse to pay any attention to the existence of Bloodborne. They won't let it be remastered. They won't let it be ported.
Yeah. I didn't post anything on this one, but all the YouTube videos for it dropped like at 8 a.m. at the same time on the same day as I was getting ready for work. The press events for the initial gameplay uh, press stuff for the new Elden Ring spinoff came out. Uh,
Oh yeah.
Impressions of the game. Well, first off, the European event went fine. The U.S. event was a dumpster fire because Bamco U.S. Picked a hotel that's Wi-Fi couldn't handle the event they were doing in Vegas.
Oh. Oh dear.
So they people from the U.S. didn't get to do a proper test of it because people were disconnecting all the time. The EU event apparently went okay though, and the this it is a very eclectic mix of experimental ideas taken from different genres and refinements to the base core button pushy gameplay of the Souls series to turn it into a co-op boss fight pseudo mini adventure uh, multiplayer session. But the caveat here is, while we don't know much about permanent progression in the game and what that amounts to, because that was not demoed obviously at this thing, uh, the real sticker is FromSoft netcode. Have you figured it out magically in the last 2 years?
If the answer is no, then you kind of missed the bus.
Yeah, if they have not got their netcode nailed down, this is dead in the water. I mean,
Yeah.
it will still sell like hotcakes just from name recognition, but it as a playable recommendation, it's not. I'm not gonna give it a shot if I do not hear reports back that say, okay, we got it figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it could be a scenario where you have to play with people in your region for all we know, in which case it's useless to me because I'm not gonna pick it up. But yeah, they've got to prove that the netcode works before I give this thing too much more attention. But the ideas they were presenting were interesting. Picking a tarnished with class abilities and a skill and an ultimate, a la hero shooter, dropped into a ever shrinking map that you explore, collect loot in, and equip different weapons for, and trying to build a proper team layout to take down bosses instead of being a PvP thing. It sounds interesting. Like you got my attention with the concept as a fun distraction spinoff, especially because you're not going to launch it at full price. I think they said it's only going to be 30 or 40 US.
It looks like a budget title, yeah.
Yeah, well, it was explicitly handed to a guy that they're letting take his crack at directing at FromSoft. So it's a first project for somebody. It's mostly an asset flip, so they're not selling it full price. But whether or not I recommend it to people, I'll have to wait until it comes out and people report back on the netcode. But I've got my eye on it and just paying attention to what people say as it comes out because I am interested in whether FromSoft can finally fix the netcode.
Please fix the netcode.
2Q Games has a bunch of games coming. Has a couple games coming out right now. Be wary of anything coming out of there. While I would normally recommend anything from Kodaka is worth at least a look for the novelty, because he's a fairly creative writer. He's brought on board Uchikoshi, who has gone turbo woke in Japan, and he is involved with the writing process in a bunch of these games. So wait until it comes out before you touch it. But they are releasing Tribe 9 soon, which is a mobile game, so not as important. Their other one, the school defense one, looks more interesting and is a more single player experience. Where I think they'll be strongest, but we'll have to see. But don't go jumping on those just because Kodaka's name's on it. Let's see. Anything else on the announcement list? I feel like I'm forgetting stuff on the announcement list.
The only other one was the new Digimon Stories.
Right. I'll let you do this one because I've been yapping.
All right. There's not a whole lot really to it. It's just another one in the Digimon Stories series, but it does not look like it's connected in any way to Cyber Sleuth.
Yeah, Hacker's Memory and Cyber Sleuth are both really good. So if
They are very good.
if they can continue to iterate and improve the formula, I'll take it. I don't want, you know, some drastic innovation with my Digimon game for stories, as long as they can tell
It's
a
a competent, competent game, JRPG style, which is what the stories series has been so far. It does look like, at least unlike Cyber Sleuth, it does have a big presence in the digital world this time.
Well, I mean, Cyber Sleuth, you were literally turned into a digital entity that spent most of their time in the digital world.
You spent your digital entity in the real world.
You were in both
For the most part, and on the internet. You didn't actually go to the digital world until the very end.
Hacker's Memory was the one where you were mostly in the real world, but I remember in Cyber Sleuth, more than half of the game was spent in the digital world.
No, it wasn't.
I'm
It was
positive.
the real world and on the internet.
Yeah, it was both, but I think the majority of your time was on the internet.
Yeah, on the internet. That's not the digital world.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying now.
Yeah, digital world's different again. And the game particularly goes out of its way to say, yes, there is a significant difference. It's like the internet's kind of the bridge between.
Yeah, well, the digital world's interpretation is different between every single entry in the series, because the
Yes.
idea of a digital everything changes so quickly.
Yeah, they kind of have to scramble to adapt. So yeah, I enjoyed Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory. They're both very good games. Maybe a bit dated now, but
They
still
were
fine.
They were already relatively dated when they came out.
Yeah.
If you've played JRPGs before, you can spot the obviously busted mechanics from a mile away. Why does Wargreymond's Great Tornado ignore defense?
Remember the Holy Trinity and you've basically won 90% of the game.
Or just press the Great Tornado button.
Or you just press the Great Tornado button.
Why does it ignore all defense?
Because protagonist power. Well, marketability power, I suppose.
I had to put Wargreymon on the bench, and that made me very sad. Because he one-shot everything. He was better. He was better than Omnimon.
To be fair, I went through the final chapters with Wargreymon Black.
Did his version
yeah, it's exactly the same.
Oh goodness. Yeah. Yeah, I had to put him on the bench. Like, how did this get through testing?
Yeah. I also had an Uber on my team as well, which what's the next one after Mega now? They've got it sometimes. It's Uber, or is it something else?
I don't actually know. I'm not up to date on modern Digimon.
Yeah. The power creep is real, so they've actually started using another tier above Mega.
Yeah, there was like Super Mega or something, but it was just a higher tier of Mega. It didn't have a name when I was still following it. It was like your Omnimons that are a fusion of two Mega Digimon.
Yeah.
If two Megas DNA digivolve into a unified whole, they're a next tier up, or the Royal Knights are that tier by default. But actually, most of them are DNA digivolutions of. So
most are, yeah.
Or golden armor digivolutions, which are the same thing or different thing, but same power level.
It gets confusing.
So yeah, they hard locked the ceiling there last I checked, and it had been that way for like 6 or 7 seasons, where they had not crept actually.
Yeah, you have just multiple flavors of Mega. So I think at some point in the last few years, it's in Hacker's Memory, so it was around then that they've just started calling a new tier.
Yeah,
but it's only sometimes.
Yeah, every iteration when I see Omnimon, it's just been a Mega, even though he's a tier. Yeah. He's technically a tier above. He's still classified as a Mega.
Yeah, looking forward to that one.
Yeah,
but, we'll see.
I'll definitely keep an eye on it. There's a lot of video games coming out right now that I want to play. I think that one's just announced, so we got time on that one. Maybe it'll come out.
We got time for that one, yeah.
Maybe it'll come out in a good window. But yeah, They're not revolutionary JRPGs. They're just JRPGs. The last two had a pretty good story with them. Yeah, I'll play them again, or not again, but I'll play a new one.
I'll play a new one. All right. Anything else?
I think that's all I got. You got anything, Will?
I don't think so.
Right. Okay, folks. I think we're going to wrap it there because we've we stalled starting the show a bit and ran it a little long waiting on Fern to get here. So I think we're going to cut it there. Closing comments before I send us out?
To play around with more stuff. But any more time?
Yep. Glad we're getting some single player games coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miko's going to get you.
Why are you doing this to me?
All right, folks. We're done. We'll see you next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.